yeah, this came out last year.
Those are the first words of this live.
We are known for starting the live show on the weirdest of statements, so that one actually is relevant.
That is relevant. It is relevant. I'll add it to my notes.
All right. We are live. I see us moving on YouTube, so I'm going to close that tab. Goodness, is anybody here? Or are we talking into the void? Welcome everybody to the February Stitch and Bitch special. Today we are doing our kind of annual traditional Hugo Awards nominations recommendations live show. Excuse me. And we're doing it like 2 weeks before the deadline for nominations ends. So
they sprung these nominations on us a little bit. I wasn't expecting it to be so quick.
I was not. You know, the schedule has been so off in like the past 3 or 4 years because of delays and pandemic and everything. Yeah. I do not remember what a usual award season schedule is supposed to be like. All right. And our first cat on the live show. Hello, Luke.
He's being very cute.
Okay, so we're going to do introductions. We have a special guest this time. Everybody welcome Angela. After introductions, we're going to talk a bit about an update on the last year's awards controversy, which some more information has become available about. But we will spend most of this show talking about Glasgow and the 2024 Hugo Awards. So yeah, and we're going to start with the not a Hugo categories and then move down ballot. So we will talk about some of the big fiction categories first and our recommendations for those. And everybody in chat, please chime in with what you are recommending for nominations, what you loved from last year. I think a lot of us are looking for reading lists. Yes. Even if we can't get them in for nominations, we're all looking for some good stuff from last year to consider, because maybe they'll show up on the ballot and we can vote for them. Okay, let's introduce ourselves. I'll go first and then Angela. I'm Rachel. This is my channel Kawanati. I'm a semi-retired booktuber and I spend most of my time online and these live shows with the Stitch and Bitch crew, talking about fantasy, science fiction, nonfiction, and let's be honest, a lot of crafting. I'm the crafting person. So crafts are not required, but I am working on my spinning today. So Angela.
I'm Angela. I have a YouTube channel called Literature Science Lions. I talk about everything I read, but it's primarily adult science fiction, fantasy, horror, speculative sort of sphere. That's what I discuss. I read a lot of books last year, and I am still looking for good books from last year, so please let me know. Go ahead, Reija.
Hey, I'm Reija, and like Rachel, I am also semi-retired with an eye on a comeback at the future, but we shall see. Anyway, I also am in the internet mostly during the Stitch and Bitches, which I really enjoy doing, and talk mostly about comics and manga, and also in the sci-fi fantasy genre. And yeah, that's me.
And we will be hearing a lot about Baldur's Gate from
yes, when we get to the new video game category. Interactive experience category. Don't even get me started on the board games that came out last year.
Wait a minute, I just realized that is not on my list of categories. The Hugo Awards website has not updated their page to include that.
But it was ratified. So
it was ratified. Okay. Let's continue with introductions. I'll look that up. Di.
Hi, my name is Diana. My channel is Bookish Di. I've been on a little bit of an unintentional hiatus the last few months, but I also read science fiction, fantasy, but also nonfiction and romance as the mood takes me. And this is Luke.
Kelsey?
Hi, I'm Kelsey. My booktube channel is The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm the one with the hats. I read mostly fantasy and science fiction, all age ranges from like middle grade to adult.
Okay, me?
Yeah, Bree.
I'm Bree. It's nice to meet you all. I'm technically still a booktuber. I have my channel still alive at Bree Reads Books, where I have traditionally just done science fiction and fantasy the way most of us here have. And today I'm doing some crochet. That's nice. Yeah.
All right. So that's us. This does tend to be a very long live show. It may be upwards of 3 hours based on our track record. So we will be moving through things at a good pace to try to get through everything. But please, if you want to continue talking about things in the chat once we've moved past them, please do. I will try my best to keep up on chat and bring people's comments and stuff in. We're going to start off by talking about what we've recently learned about last year's Hugo Awards nominations and what the Hugo administrators did last time. Does somebody want to take this one on? Is somebody filled with rage and wants to go for it?
I'm filled with rage, but I was going to read the report a second time to make sure that I understood everything, and I did not. But what we have received in this 20-page report by blanking on the names of the guys.
Sparkly.
And Jason Sanford.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
So
linked in
they
the show description.
received emails from one of the Western members of the Hugo team last year. And these emails were between Dave McCarty and just the American and Canadian members of the Hugo team. None of the Chinese members of the team were on this email chain, right? And in these emails, Dave is asking his fellow Hugo team members to flag any works on this preliminary list of potential finalists that may have controversial things to say about Taiwan, Hong Kong, Tibet, or mainland China. And so the result of this is that these people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing, have not read many of the works in question. Are they all white? Are there any of them who are not white?
I think they're all white.
So these white Americans and Canadians are going through this list of potential Hugo finalists with no further guidance except what Dave has told them, and are basically just marking anything by Chinese diaspora people as possibly problematic because anyways, and a whole ton of other things that it's very bad.
It's bad.
And it's really bad, and it's not clear that anyone actually asked them to do this. It seems like he just decided.
All I know is that Dave said this.
Mm-hmm.
Dave implies that he has some Chinese counterpart he's reporting to, but he doesn't say who that is or what he's been asked to do. It very much feels like Dave just thinks this is what he's supposed to do.
Based on what we have learned about Dave McCarty and how he has behaved in the previous times he has administered the Hugos, he will look for any reason to use his own judgment to manipulate the awards. And he did so egregiously this time. And as somebody on Blue Sky said, it wasn't just self-censorship, like anticipatory self-censorship. It was racist self-censorship.
Well, and then the other aspect that has come out is a science fiction, a Chinese SFF magazine, I think it's Science Fiction World, had published recommendation.
Did I say Nepal? Did I have that on?
No, this is Tibet, not.
No, I'm aware of what happened with Nepal, which is why I thought that.
I know, but all you have to say is those
it has become a
meme. Cracking up.
It has become a meme at this point.
But
the brief explanation of that is Paul Weimer was deemed ineligible from fan writer right.
Basically because he is friends with Jeanette Ng.
Because he had traveled to Tibet. Only thing is, he never traveled to Tibet. He traveled to Nepal. And who did travel to Tibet? Ursula Vernon. The best novel category.
On the internet watching it happen.
Also, I think what's really funny reading that report was like, oh, we have big issues in the fan writer category. I'm like, no offense to fan writer. No one cares about the fan writer category. Like
they've right. So on this sheet, they've like listed all of these very like, concerning concerns about all the fan writers. And
they had like a dossier of like
people. But I did want to circle back to the recommend reading list because this also plays into Dave asserting power that he doesn't have, but also pretty blatant racism was that the Chinese magazine had published a recommend reading list that included both works originally published in Chinese as well as some English works. And Dave was like, no, that's a slate, and then just blanket removed them. Because I remember when we were looking at the short list last year, we were talking about how for a lot of the categories, we were like, this is all pretty much all in English except for some of the novelettes and short stories. Like we were really confused. And it looks like the explanation is they were just blanket removed, which is, again, racist, but it's also screwing over the chance for a lot of these works to get exposure to Western audiences.
Well, also, what seems to have happened is that he threw out a bunch of votes, right?
Mm-hmm. A lot of votes.
Or disqualified a lot of voters on the premise that this recommended reading list was a slate. And we know this because on the chart that was linked, this report is full of links to all of the supporting documents. This chart that people were compiling in email shows basically what looks like more or less a preliminary long list of works. And like in the novel category, we see 4 Chinese language novels from this recommended reading list at the top of that list. So that is pretty damning. And then I don't remember exactly what he says in the email about throwing out the slate votes and how that is absolutely within his power. And it is not, because even if it were a slate and not a recommended reading list, it's not within the rules to throw out slated votes that people, paid for.
Well, and
isn't epically
what we have, the voting system that we have that was put in place after the puppies is to try to counter a slate a little bit with normal democratic means instead of disqualifying slate votes, because you have to count them because that's part of the process of the Hugo Awards. Okay, yes.
Can I pause to just say Bob Minion has asked if this is a witch's circle, and yes. Welcome to our coven.
This is the coven. Are you a minion though? I hope you are.
A familiar, maybe.
So yeah, it's just
the sheet though that really, like, I like this report, but something that bothers me is the math still doesn't math, and I still don't know why the math doesn't math.
Because they messed with it so much.
My personal theory, having just looked at this a little, but not enough to really know if my personal theory makes any sense, is that he may have reassigned the votes from the Chinese language works to the English language works that were like the top English language works on the list.
But then how did the series category have the most numbers? No one cares about the series category more than
I-
Well, it might be that the Chinese voters cared a lot about the series category because and actually voted in it a lot for the Chinese works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm the only person here who's read the Founders Trilogy, and I like it, but it did not deserve 900 nominations.
No, this is why I'm saying that I think he took those numbers from something else and gave them to the English language works that he thought should be on the ballot.
The really shitty part is that we'll never know for sure. And this just looks really bad for the Chinese like fandom when it's not their fault.
It's Dave's fault.
Dave sucks.
And everybody who did not challenge him and say, you think this might be kind of wrong?
The most
It's
baffling
the
thing
awards.
with these emails is that, I mean, it might be that someone sent Dave a personal email additionally saying, hey, are you sure this is a really weird thing you're having us do? But if so, like, we don't have that. We have all these people behaving like this is an absolutely normal thing for the Hugo administrator to be asking of them.
Yeah, and at this point, so Kat Jones has now stepped down as the administrator for Glasgow.
We skipped why she was involved.
Yeah, so for reference, Kat Jones was the Hugo voting administrator for ShyCon. She was helping during admin for Chengdu, and she was supposed to be the lead admin for Glasgow. She's been involved and has stepped down within, I think it was within like 36 hours of the report being released.
It was less than 24 because the report was released and we were talking like how long would it take, and I was saying I think it's going to take at least a day, and then within
I had messages at midnight, and by 10 o'clock, like 10 hours later, Glasgow had sent out the email that she had resigned. So it happened quite quickly.
You guys should have seen our like group chat. Oh my God.
I can bet.
So, unfortunately, this whole thing has really blown up as well. There's going to be a lot of blowback on Chinese fandom, which they do not deserve. As well, from what we're seeing, the Chinese SFF fandom, the Chinese people involved in Worldcon, do not seem to have been involved in this. They were not the drivers of this absolute debacle, but they are going to be paying for it in terms of people's perception of the awards and everything. It is bad, and it's going to have like many years of consequences for fandom. So it's bad. Yeah, Reija?
And
I think the bigger issue is also that because this has caused a scene, like it wasn't a big issue before, like in terms of like if we think about like, you know, does the Chinese government care? Probably not. It's such a niche event. But now it has been covered in like Guardian. It has become such a huge deal for the public image also of China. So the Chinese fandom is probably going to have more eyes on them in terms of like government input. And it was actually like also mentioned in the report that this was one of the avenues of like free speech. And that is gonna be affected. So it's not even like Western fans may point fingers and stuff, but it's like there's like more damning repercussions for the fans in China than just the fact that the awards got a little bit tarnished.
And I think that was it Jonathan Strain who wrote the addendum to the report, like that last section, because that last section mentions that like, hey, like we need to consider the moral implications because this is resisting a government that would censor you, even if that is what was happening. Like the responsibility of that is not the responsibility of somebody who's living in that government and could be literally just like punished for the rest of their life, right? Like the people who are responsible for making sure that the integrity of this is held up to Western standards is the Western people on the committee.
Yeah. With that, Jill asked the question, is Dave still in place? Do we want to talk about the potential repercussions of this? What's going to change? And
so Dave is not still in place. He's been, File 770 posted about it this morning, but he is no longer on the marketing committee for the Hugos. I
find that rich. He was on the marketing committee. The marketing committee.
He was the chair
for the award that he
Yes.
just
fucked over.
Fucked up.
Oh my god.
I will also say that File 770 did an interview with Dave where Dave was very pissy. And one of the things he said in that interview, which I read in a very pissy tone, was like, no one's ever going to hire me to do the Hugo administration ever again. And I was like, that's your takeaway from this whole thing? Your
No
integrity-
shit, Sherlock.
Like your resume took a hit? Like, wow.
He also, with his entire chest, was like, I did everything right and I would do it again and everyone else would have done the same thing as me. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
they wouldn't.
I would
As we've seen from the discussions.
He has been censured by the whatever holds the Hugo trademark or register mark or whatever. He and a couple of people were censured for comments that they made about that. But that's the only thing that's really come about. That's the only thing that's really enforceable at this point.
Yeah, well, he's resigned from the chair of the marketing committee. So did Cheryl Morgan, I think, resigned for some, I don't know. Yeah, Cheryl Morgan also resigned. I don't know what for. The new chair, Linda Denaroff, says we're currently in a holding pattern. I have taken over leading the Hugo Awards marketing committee, but I still need to contact the other members to see if they wish to remain on it.
I have to point out Ron's comment that if you want to get real mad, listen to the audio of that interview. There is apparently audio where we can hear Dave say in his own words.
I would
yeah.
say for your mental health, don't do that. Listening to a
Yes.
white privileged man with his entire chest feel like he's in the right when he's in the wrong is not good for you.
No.
Look, if I wanted
might-
to
I
listen
might
to that, I could go
listen.
to any other place in the US.
I was gonna say that I might listen to it just to know if my imagined internal Dave voice sounds the same as the real Dave
I
voice.
almost listened to it just because I couldn't get through the transcript. It was so painful. And I'm like, I have to lie down with my eyes closed and groan through this because there's no other way I'm getting to the end of it. But I couldn't even make myself do that. So I didn't finish reading it.
All right, we have been talking about this for a while. We want to wrap it up with what's next.
Glasgow.
Glasgow is next. Let's focus on Glasgow now.
I will say Glasgow, for anybody who's just tuning in because of the drama, Glasgow has been fabulously transparent about everything they've been doing the last full year, 2 years really, to make this a better process.
Basically,
+1 to
even
Glasgow.
before they won the bid,
Mm-hmm.
they have put all of their efforts into transparency. Like the email that we got about the Cat Jones resignation and stuff, it lined up like, okay, here are the steps that we will take to ensure that what happened last year won't happen again. So
Do we know
they're
who's
really
replacing
serious.
her?
Not yet,
Do we
I
know
don't
who's
think.
replacing Cat Jones now that she's resigned?
I
Not
haven't.
as far as I know.
I'm sure they will communicate it though.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if and this is pure speculation on my part, but I wonder if Cheryl Morgan partly resigned from the Hugo marketing committee because of the proposal she has for the next business. So it might be a conflict of interest thing.
Yeah.
But
I will
who's
say
to
the other thing with the business meeting is if you have a chance to attend it and they're talking about Cheryl Morgan's proposal, do so. And if there's a Discord where people are talking about suggested proposals for the business meeting, Adri, one of the editors at Nerds of the Feather, put a link out for that on Blue Sky. I haven't joined, but it could be a good chance. And I think I do think the business meeting needs to be moved to be accessible online, because the way it is now, it's essentially its own special little fandom for people who love Robert's Rules of Order too much and have inflated self-importance. And yes, I'm saying that having sat through all of Chicago to vote
Here's
for
the thing.
the interactive one.
Not only do I think that business meetings should be moved to be accessible online, but I also think that the voting process like should allow for people to have like a restricted voting or something outside of the business meeting as well, so that people who are not able to attend the business meeting in the whatever ungodly hour that it's being hosted in a tiny little back room of a convention hall will still be able to have their voices heard.
That's
I
not
also
an
don't-
exaggeration, by the way.
No, it's not. I do think also that there's like a really good argument to be made that like we have now set the precedent, having had a lot of virtual participation in the Hugos, that this is something that should be normal going forward.
Yes,
Like
the virtual thing, the virtual component of any con is not going to go anywhere. I've had so many people complain about it. Why virtual? Blah, blah, blah. Like, why not?
Well, that's always
Yeah.
been a thing that like got me curious about the Hugos, is because, and I ask this to people in my life all the time. Nobody, unless you're in the Hugos, knows that the Hugos are just a fandom competition. Nobody knows that. When they see that sticker at the bookstore, they think there is a jury of judges who are voting on books each year. That's what people think's happening. And so then in my head, I'm like, then it should have as much of the fandom in it as possible. But there's the paywall, and then there's all of this. You have to be in person, and I'm just like, tell me these old white people don't just want to keep it all to themselves. A little louder.
But that's the thing, like, I think actually Thomas from SFF 180 like was talking about this in his recent live stream when they were discussing the initial controversy, saying about the like why the Hugos are prestigious or viewed to be prestigious in the first place, and it's the age, basically, because it's such an old institution, similar to the Oscars. And if you think about the Oscars are also kind of like a fandom circle jerk
That's
of
not a
people who
fandom.
have
That's
enough
a weird
money.
rich people fandom.
Well, but the rich weird people fandom, it can be a fandom in and of itself. They're also like, they have a paywall of like, you need to have this much money to be able to buy a guild membership to be able to nominate in the Oscars, and
I will
also
say-
of course have to be an industry professional, whatever that means.
Yeah. Jeff Vandermeer, just for anybody who's been keeping an eye on the Blue Sky discourse, has mentioned a couple times now paying out of his own pocket for an ethics audit if and when we revise the rules around the Hugo administration, which I don't know how serious that is, but it's been said multiple times over on Blue Sky. So hopefully.
I really hope that the movement to like decouple the Hugo Awards and Worldcon and straighten that out finally gets off the ground. People have been talking about it for so long, and I hope that it goes forward. So all that being said, we have a lot of confidence in Glasgow. Glasgow's going to be awesome. And let's head into talking about nominations. We're not going to explain what all this stuff is. If you've gotten this far in the live show, you know what the Hugo Awards are, you know what Worldcon is, and you probably know whether you have nominating rights or not. If you don't know, if you don't have a membership to Glasgow already, you have missed the cutoff date for getting a membership to nominate. I believe if you get a membership now, you will get voting rights still.
Yes. Usually you can get voting rights pretty close to the deadline for voting, because I did that for ChiCon. Like, I got my membership like a week before the
Yeah. Glasgow has a ton of membership options and stuff. So definitely, if you want to know more, go check out their website. It is linked. I should have linked it in the show description. So yeah, we're going to assume at this point, you know what's going on. So category time.
Category time.
Best novel.
We're going
the Not a Hugos.
We're going to start with the Not a Hugos, and we'll start with the Lodestar Award for Best Young Adult Book.
I will admit I have not been really reading a lot of YA, so I don't have a whole lot for this. I did read Gabe Cole-Mavoa's piratey YA book, which I quite enjoyed, which I'm blanking on the name. Let me pull up my 2023 reads. But this was like, it's very much, if you liked Our Flag Means Death, particularly Jim, it's The Wicked Bargain. If you like Jim, this is a book for you.
I'm writing down everyone's recommendations that I want to read.
I mean, the biggest young adult SFF release from last year was Divine Rivals, right?
Yeah, but that's also Wednesday books. I don't really want to talk about.
I know. I just was like, well, fair enough. I don't actually know who St. Martin Press books are. Most of them are not the books I read, so I blissfully get to live in ignorance 99% of the time.
Yeah, I would.
The other big one that I haven't read was A Study in Drowning. People keep telling me I should read that.
That one,
Isn't that a 2024 book?
No, that was 2023. It was Ava Reed's YA debut.
I guess everyone's been reading it this year.
Yeah. I feel like I wouldn't be shocked because I think Ava Reed was on the Astounding Award for Bye. Yeah, I think A Study in Drowning could potentially be there. I think Charlie Jane Anders had a book out last year. She's going to be on there.
P.J. Clark had a Benny song come out last year, which is like middle grade to YA. And P.J. Clark usually does well with Hugo Voters. So
what's that young adult book with the really long title? It has a dragon on the cover. I knew a lot of people who were adults were really liking that young adult, but I can't. Song of Flame.
Song of Silver, Flame like
that
night.
one.
That one, I haven't read it, but the Illumicrate version is so pretty.
I just know a lot of people who've read that really liking it. So I don't know if that means
I have a book to recommend that no one else seems to have read, but I want to recommend it highly. This is A Warning About Swans by R.M. Romero. It's a novel in verse, and it takes a lot of fairy tale tropes and
it's very fairy tale,
some mythology, and puts it in like 19th century Bavaria, but it's all like, it's very quick to read because it's in verse. So it's a much faster read than it looks like. It's not particularly dense poetry. And it's about a girl who's basically a swan maiden. And she and her sisters have been given these cloaks that give them the ability to turn into swans and also sort of guard the forest in which they live. And her gift is to guide souls to the afterlife, and it's very painful for her. So she runs away and makes a bargain with this boy, with this dude. And it doesn't go well for her, but there's a very sweet romance with a non-binary love interest, and it's just a very beautifully written book.
What's the name of it again?
A Warning About Swans.
I picked it up last week, actually, because you mentioned it on our group chat. I have finished it since. It's very
Yay!
I will say another one that I realized I forgot that I read because I read it so early in the year that I'll probably nominate is Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. It's a sequel novella to A Sorcery of Thorns, which I adored. And this is just, it's a little like bonus to the fans. It's fan servicey, but in a way that I like, where it's showing how Nathaniel and Elizabeth are like, how their relationship is developing. We find out like what's going on after that big final battle, and love is expressed through giving Elizabeth a suit of armor, which I love. So I'll probably nominate that as well.
I am currently reading, and I don't know how I'm going to end up like rating this, or if I'll feel like it's good enough to put on my ballot, but I'm currently reading Venom and Vow, which is by Anna Marie McLemore and Elliot McLemore, and I'm enjoying this in the sense that like it's enough of a page turner that I'm invested. I don't know how I'll end up feeling about it by the end. This is very different from like the sort of magical realism stuff I expect from Anna Marie McLemore. I wouldn't have guessed that this was one of their books if you just gave it to me and told me to read it.
They wrote it with their partner, right?
Yes. So this is co-written, and I'm enjoying it. But I'm reserving judgment. But I just wanted to mention this because I am currently reading this. And then, yes.
Oh, I was going to say I haven't read it, but it's one of the few young adult books that's been on my TBR, and it's Into the Light by Mark Ashiro. I just really like him as a young adult author. He wrote Each of Us, which was like a fantasy future dystopia. So
yeah, is that one?
It's from Tor, so I thought it had horror speculative elements.
Okay, I didn't know for sure, just because they've also published.
They also do contemporary fairly often, but that's
why
I
was a little. Yeah, so let me double check and see. I know Goodreads tags aren't always accurate. It's not saying. Yeah. Okay, so it does say horror. So I don't know if it's
like I said. I think it's one of those hard-hitting young adult horror type books, but I haven't read it yet. But I just like them as an author.
Yeah,
I think they also wrote a Percy Jackson book, a book in that world.
Actually, you know what? I would not be surprised if that also ended up on the short list, because Rick Riordan released the Chalice of the Gods, which is a new Percy Jackson book, as well as The Sun and the Star with Mark Ashiro. So I would not be shocked if one of those ended up on the short list.
Yeah, because I know that's what Mark Ashiro has been touring for, was that other book he hadn't been touring for.
So I really want to only recommend books that I 100% know are YA or middle grade for the Lodestar. So I want to ask, having read it, if any of you know for a fact whether or not this series is supposed to be YA. This
I don't.
36 by Gail Carriger.
I wouldn't call it YA.
I didn't think it was YA when I picked it up. The protagonists are teenagers, and then I saw somewhere on her website she refers to it as YA.
Oh, really?
I haven't read it, but that's just because Gail Carriger is not an author for me. I've bombed out of enough of her books to know that.
I have the series I need to read, so yeah.
I wanted to know if anyone had read the next two books in this series that I haven't read yet, and knows if they stay YA-ish or if they if the characters get older.
The marking I sometimes use for young adult releases in the United States is price points, because paperbacks are priced differently. And on Amazon, it looks like full price for this book is $16 paperback, which makes me think it's actually potentially a young adult imprint, because nowadays $20.
It's self-published. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, if it's self-published, you just have to go with whatever the author says, because that's my marketing thing.
He doesn't say on the page for the books themselves on her website, but if you go to the page where she rates the steam or spice levels of all the books, she lists this one with the YA books that aren't steamy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would say that you're in the clear for saying it's young adult, just because for me, young adult is an age range based off marketing distinctions, and when it's indie, then you just go with the author's
right.
100%.
I hadn't seen this referred to as YA until I went digging. So I was wondering if she had said on social media somewhere that I hadn't mentioned, if this was that I hadn't seen if this was YA or not. Because
my suspicion is she wouldn't be very loud about it, because when you want to get as wide of an audience as you want in indie, you're not going to try and pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not 100% certain that this is YA, but if I read the next two books and feel like it stays YA-ish, this may go on my Lodestar ballot.
The only thing that I see is Goodreads has a young adult label for it.
Yeah, but that
does not mean anything.
It does not mean anything.
The only thing that I know I'm going to nominate in this category is the same thing that Ron suggested in the chat, which is the Sinister Booksellers of Bath by Garth Nix. It's the second in the Booksellers of London series, and I loved it. So, yeah.
I need to still read that series, because it sounds really interesting whenever you mention it.
I really enjoyed it. I was surprised at how much I liked the first one, and I think the second is even better. The first one is the Left-Handed Booksellers of London.
I need to read that as well. The other one that I do want to try and read before, I don't know if it's going to happen, is Painted Devils by Margaret Owens, which is the sequel to Little Thieves. To Shape a Dragon's Breath is not YA. It was published by Del Rey, which is an adult imprint, and Nerds of a Feather, I'm looking at you because it is on your recommended readings list as the Lodestar. And
Yeah, we conquered
No.
the evil last year. Let's not start like
anything
doing new
published by
evils.
Del Rey is adult. I am going to just reiterate that.
Del Rey really should start investing in like their young adult imprint or something, because they do love to get those new adult overlaps.
Yeah, the problem is that Del Rey is hi buddy. Penguin Random House, and I don't know if Penguin Random House is looking for another YA imprint.
Yep. And also, they can make more money if it's an adult and adult people pick it up. Like I said, there's like a $5
Yeah, exactly.
difference per book.
Because it's like what, $10 more expensive, like hardcovers and stuff for adult books are more expensive than YA.
Yep.
So more margin, more moolah, cash, ching ching.
Yep.
Hi buddy.
All right. Anything else on Lodestar?
No.
We want to move on to Astounding?
Yes. Hi.
I don't have anything for Astounding. I am way too out of the loop.
I'm going to be nominating, I know for sure I'm nominating 2 authors. So one is Sarah El-Arifi. This would be her second year of eligibility. She wrote The Final Strife and The Battle Drum. And I haven't read The Battle Drum or Feybound yet, but I really enjoyed The Final Strife. And she was on my nominations for last year's Astounding. And then the other one I want to nominate is MX Liu, who wrote 2 things last year, one of which I've read, If Found, Return to Hell, which I quite enjoyed.
Can we highlight Brett's question really quick, just because it's come up?
They defer to the voters, which is how we ended up with Naomi
So
Novik.
the times when they will change the category of something is when the difference is in length. If it's between like the short fiction categories, if you nominate something in short story, but it's actually a novelette by length. And if you have like an empty spot on your short story or novelette ballot, and then they can just move it into your empty slot. But yeah,
and part of that is that you don't want to have a categorize something, because if you don't have an empty spot, then that kind of just disappears as a vote. So the more accurate you can be, the better for making sure you're represented in the
How does that work? I think this question came up when we're talking about the Lodestar. Lodestar is not a Hugo. It's not administered as a Hugo. So if you can nominate something for a Lodestar and nominate it in its respective correlating category in the Hugo Awards. So
right, YA books are also eligible for Best Novel.
Right. So what would happen if somebody nominated something for the Lodestar that maybe generally is not considered to be YA? Would they be able to move it to novel?
Probably.
I mean, I wouldn't think so, because I mean, I have like a higher standard for what I'll put in my Best Novel list than the Lodestar.
That's a very
controversial I wouldn't
thing
want
to say.
Something moved from my Lodestar list to the Best Novel list, and
I'm not sure that they could or that they would, just because they're moving something from a not a Hugo award to a Hugo category would not.
Yeah, I would not think that the Lodestar or Astounding votes would count in the but you vote at them at the same time. But for example, I don't think that, for example, the Hugo, do the Hugo pluribus
I think so, but Astounding is for author, not work. So
yeah.
I have a different controversial question: do you think that they'll make an exception for Xianzhe Zhao to be eligible for Astounding?
They have to have already done that. Like, it's too late.
Yeah, no, this it's a wash for now. It's like sorry about it, but
I mean, I think the Glasgow team could potentially put out something that we're extending eligibility, and they've done that for some works in other categories in the past for a special exception, but they haven't mentioned it yet.
Have to happen at the previous year's business meeting, or am I making that up?
I don't know if they're It might be that normally they would, but I don't know that there's really any precedent for a situation like this. And I could see being like, well,
But I also,
fuck.
but I
I
also
mean, I
think that
can
if the
see a lot of people putting them on their ballot this year just like in protest, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
then they'll have to make an eligibility call.
But they can't make a decision like that in just one category and then not open the floodgates for reconsidering every category.
Well,
Right.
astounding isn't a Hugo though.
Or I know, but if they make that exception for one, people, their perception of it's going to be like, well, why
Yeah.
don't you address the other things as well?
True.
So I think that's
speaking
why
of,
people haven't said anything about it. Like I don't think they're going to make that decision. I don't think they're going to do that.
speaking of astounding though, I'm not exactly sure if my one pick, if he is actually like eligible, because he might have published like shorts fiction stuff before, but Nick Medina, I think is eligible. I think his debut novel came out last year, Sisters of the Lost Nation, and unless he's published like other short fiction in previous years, I think he would be eligible for the Astounding Award.
I'm looking at his website, and he's not listing any short stories.
Yeah, the only short story collection he's listing is the one that was also published last year. Because spoiler alert, that's also going to be in my best novel suggestions. The one thing that I have for best novel is by Nick Medina.
So I think is this Nassim Jamnia's second year of eligibility?
Yeah, this is their second year.
So I'll definitely be nominating them. And also my one other author I have to nominate is Mia Tsai. This was a debut novel, and I don't think that she published anything else prior. I had enough like nitpick pet peeve things with this particular book that I wouldn't nominate this book for anything, but I definitely enjoyed it enough to think she's an author to watch, and I would put her on my astounding ballot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I haven't finished Bitter Medicine, but I'd agree. Yeah.
This is a contemporary urban fantasy romance with some Chinese elements as well as other mythologies.
Also, it has really strong 90s anime vibes.
I mean, just the cover or the whole
Not
thing?
only the cover, but the story as well.
Yeah,
it has
I see
very
that.
significant 90s dark urban fantasy anime vibes. Think Wicked City, but not hentai. It's very that like gothic baby stuff. It's very that. But like more family friendly.
I think similar to what Kelsey was talking about, I didn't like this book enough to probably put it on any lists, but the author themselves kind of shows promise, and I can't pronounce their name, but it's the author of The Surviving Sky, if you've seen that cover around.
Oh.
I think they haven't written, I'm on their website, I don't see short fiction or anything like that, so I think this is a debut, first time. And like, my issues with it are truly just personal. Like, I don't think it actually is poorly written or anything like that. It's just like, I didn't care. But it's about a married couple, which I also think we don't get a lot of in fantasy, so that's kind of cool too.
Kritika H. Ra, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I said I do not know if it's Rao or Ro for the last name, yeah. But that's a debut. It's a sci fantasy, so it's got cool plant stuff. The Earth is literally a plant that will eat you, and you can't land on it, so that's why they fly around a lot. And there's a married couple, one who can control the plants, so he's an architect, he's high up in society, and his wife is an archaeologist, I think, which she made that profession for this world. Like, they knew about it from classic Earth, but no one cares about the history of Earth. And they have a contentious relationship, and it's kind of got sci-fi thriller vibes where things are worse than normal, and they got to figure out why. And it has a lot of Hindu influences in its philosophizing and things. So there's a lot of cool new stuff in it. I just didn't care about the main characters, and I'm very character connection focused. So, yeah.
All right. Anything else for Astounding?
I don't think so.
It's always so hard with the short story thing, because like I have 2 other authors who had like debut works, but they weren't like if you look at short stories, they were writing in 2020. So it's like.
But I think if they have published short stories in like somewhere that, like if they isn't it so if they have published professional work somewhere, then they are eligible in Astounding, or does it have to be debut novel? Because
No.
obviously
No. It's just most people don't
Jamia.
get put on for short story work,
Yes.
right? Not that many people read short stories. So by the time they write their first novel, and if they've been in short stories, then they're no longer eligible.
Yes.
This just feels like a major oversight. Like, and I don't know how to like look at that without saying like, how do I say this? Like, without preferencing novels and novellas in a way that's unfair. But the exposure level is so vastly different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't disagree.
Best novel?
Best novel. Yeah, let's work our way down ballot.
Oh boy.
I have one.
Start us off then, Reija.
Okay. Sisters of the Lost Nation by Nick Medina. It's horror, and it's urban fantasy horror. Takes place in a indigenous reservation in a casino, and girls are going missing, and the main character is trying to find out what has happened to her sister. There's 2 timelines going on, and it's like a ticking clock situation, and you know in the other timeline that something bad has happened, and then in the other timeline you're kind of like it's kind of like the 2 timelines are kind of like running to meet each other, and you're constantly going like, okay, how did she disappear, what happened? And there's like these supernatural elements.
This is a thriller.
Yeah,
Say the name again.
Sisters of the Lost Nation. Yes. I really enjoyed it. It was the one new release last year that I managed. I picked it up at the library when Rachel was visiting, when we went to...
I remember that.
Yes, and I did read it. It was the one thing that I managed. But it was really good. It was grip, and I will say that, like, trigger warning for some unsavory sexual themes. There is grooming and assault in the
my
book.
one question is that incest? Because no,
not incest, but it's like there is a character who's using his significant power to trap these girls, and there's also like a little bit of a human trafficking element. But that's the thing, is that it's never really explicitly explored on page. You see like the themes are explored, but it's never graphic. It's not in your face.
You see the aftermath, but not the
action. And I think it's like very like as tastefully done as you can. It's not glorified or like there's no reveling in it. It's a very good book. It's like creepy as shit. It's like there's there's very early on in the book, there's a scene where the main character goes into this trailer that's kind of abandoned and picks up books, and she sees something come up in the from under the trailer, and it's never really visually described what it is, but just by describing how she feels about it gives you the creeps. It's like really like unsettling. I think, Angela, if you haven't read it, you might actually enjoy it.
Potentially. We'll see. I'm still figuring out what I do and don't like in horror these days. But speaking of horror, since you started it, I have 2 horror books as well, which would be the ones that I nominated because horror was the only thing hitting for me. One is, this is actually closer to dark fantasy and horror, so I don't mind. This one actually has more fantasy stuff, but this is Lone Woman by Victor Laval. Probably more known for The Changeling right now because of the Apple TV show. And this is very fun. It starts with the premise of what's in the box. I love a what's in the box premise. I don't know if that's an actual real thing people talk about, but that's literally the start of the book. We have Adelaide, and she's leaving her home where she just burns down her farm where her parents are dead in it, brutally murdered. We don't know why or how. And she leaves with a box to go to Montana to homestead, and I love homesteading. And it's a very good book about multiple individual women owning their homesteads, and it's very tight thematically and plotting and character work, and I just love Victor Laval's work. So I really like this. And then the other one, because I think it qualifies, because the first year it's translated in English. Does it matter if it's published in the United States or the UK first for that?
No.
No.
So if it was published in the UK in 2022, then it doesn't count, even though it wouldn't have been published in the United States.
If it was published in the UK in 2022, I don't think it's eligible for.
Okay, and this one's probably not eligible because it wasn't published in the United States till 2023, because that's when I could get my hands on it, but it would have been Our Share of Night, so, which I really love as a horror book. So, but it's very long and most people haven't read it, but it's very indulgent and it's very much like 20th century Argentina. You're following children and they run into things that they ought not to, and very haunted houses and occults and demons.
It's on my reading list for this year.
It's very fun. I like the audiobook, but be warned, this is one of those fun books with no chapters.
Okay.
You know, it's funny.
I like chapters.
I never notice when
breaks.
books have no chapters because I don't pay attention to chapter breaks when I read anyways. So like sometimes I will see a review of a book I've just read, like it had no chapters, and I'm like, really?
See, this is what I blame purely on my ADHD. I need chapter breaks and like also like paragraph breaks between chapters themselves, like make it like bite-sized reading, and I will keep my interest longer.
There are paragraph breaks, but legitimately one part of the book is over 300 pages and there's no
Oh my God.
break in that.
I kind of like it. It just like
I'm just saying it's very indulgent in its style. It's just, I really enjoy what it's doing.
I just realized Assassin of Reality by Sergei and Marina Diachenko is technically it is eligible, but it's been like last year felt like it was 84 years long. I did not realize that it came out last year because it's been ages. But I'm not actually sure if I would even nominate it because like compared to Vita Nostra, no, this was not it. It was fine.
Angela, I didn't read it because Vita Nostra is an amazing standalone with an open ending that should not be closed.
Exactly.
Yes!
Exactly.
It took me 6 months to read it. Me and Rachel were buddy reading it, and I completely left her hanging because I was just like, I'm not interested anymore. I can't.
You know,
6 months later.
I liked Assassin of Reality in that it was a compelling read. Like I actually finished it pretty quickly because I was really caught up in it. But it left me actually like kind of angry that it had changed my perception of Vita Nostra. I was like, that book was great. I liked the ambiguity. I liked not knowing, and it just completely erased that.
Yeah, I'm just going to pretend that Assassin of Reality is like a multiverse situation, and somewhere Vita Nostra can still sit in its own pocket without any disturbance.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought I would mention it because I think it might have potential to be on the ballot itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not nominating it though.
I think the only thing that I read that I would nominate is System Collapse by Martha Wells.
That's one of my two.
It
is not a novella, it's a novel, yes?
Yeah.
Has she said if she would recuse?
I don't know if she's going to recuse or not. That's the thing. But the problem is I read a lot of the SFF releases that I read. I don't know if I'd nominate. Like I read Venko, which was fine. But I liked Her Majesty's Royal Coven better of the two like modern witchy books that I read, and I haven't read The Shadow Cabinet yet. The Archive of Dying I enjoyed, but it's also really fucking weird, and I know it didn't work for everyone.
I feel like there's an argument to be made that Venko should be nominated because we need more representation on that short list anyways, though. Like, it's still very good. I like Venko a lot more than you, though.
I think for me, my problem with Venko was it had a very positive view of all of womanhood coming together. And, you know, this includes trans women, it's inclusive view of womanhood. But it was also for me, like, really simply women good, men bad. And I think Her Majesty's Royal Coven had a much more nuanced take, including sometimes upper class white British woman will make a literal deal with the devil to avoid including trans women, which felt very accurate.
As a clarification for a Veracity Life's question, whether something is sci-fi or not is kind of a moot question insofar as the typical rule of thumb is that if enough of the fandom votes for it, then that should be speculative fiction enough.
Yeah. I would like to see I haven't read it yet, but everyone I know who's read Chain Gang All-Stars has raved about it, so I'm hoping that ends up on the short list.
So
I will. Sorry, Kelsey, go on.
No, I have a lot of books to talk about, so I'll wait until everyone who is already talking about their recommendations finishes.
Okay.
Before
I want to throw Brett's comment in here. Translation state, system collapse, and generation ship.
It will be interesting to see if Lecky will recuse, because she has recused before for stuff eligible for.
She recused when the Raven Tower
Yes.
was nominated, and I think it was like that year or something specific. I'm not sure.
I don't think she gave an explanation, did she?
No, not
I can't
really.
remember. Anyway, I wish that I was nominating Translation State. I am very sad I was not in love with that book.
This is a flash from the past, but I can't think about nominating Lecky without thinking about Rachel in my first Worldcon, where she was passing out Ambassador Geck pins, because I still have them, like all of my tags hanging out. Fun fact.
That was the year that I was going to take my copy of Ancillary Justice to get it signed, because I knew Lecky was going to be there, and I left it at home.
I know, and like both of us were there,
home.
both of us were there, like, it's Aunt Lecky. Oh my god.
Yes.
I have one tentative thing. I'm in the middle of it, but it's eligible, and that is The Faithless by C.L. Clarke. I really enjoyed The Unbroken, and this
is no prayer of making it, but I would nominate that in a second.
Yeah, I'm like halfway through basically currently. I started last week, and I've been really flying through this. So I'm waiting unless it really like shits the bed at the end. But like, I have hope, and I did nominate The Unbroken when that was eligible, so I might just go forth with another, like, okay, just putting it out there.
No, the only Sapphic trifecta book the Hugos gave any love was She Who Became the Sun, so has no prayers.
Well, but you know, if enough people
fully
think
believe in nominating things for Hugo Awards that have no prayer. I do it.
Yeah, I did that last year. I agree. It's just
all
one
I
of
ever
the
do.
things.
All I ever nominate.
When we get to the graphic story category, that's basically an entire nomination list of things that don't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting in. But it's like I will continue.
And I would say everybody nominate what you want to nominate.
Yes.
This is why the long list tends to be so interesting after the awards.
Exactly.
So much better than the short list, if I'm honest. Like, the long list is where it's at.
Except
why this year.
In a normal year where Dave
year.
McCarty's not in charge, yes.
So I have, aside from the fact that I like to nominate things that no one has, else cares about, I have this thing that I've talked about before where I kind of do counter-seasonal reading, because in the winter, when it is cold and the days are short, I really have a hard time reading anything like super heavy or serious. And in the winter is when I panic and do all my reading of things that are eligible for Hugo Awards. So I end up reading all this fluffy, fun stuff and nominating it for Hugo Awards. And then in the summer, when the short list full of the serious works comes out, I read those and it's fine. But I have 3 novels published last year that I have rated 5 stars. And they are these 3, one of which definitely YA, one of which maybe YA, and this one definitely just sort of a fluffy fun read.
I knew I was going to see that. The Encyclopedia of Fairies.
So I believe in nominating things that don't have a chance in the best novel category. I believe in nominating YA books in the best novel category. I have so.
I think Encyclopedia has a better chance than you think, though.
Well, I think this is very popular on TikTok, but I don't know that it's popular with Hugo voters.
Yeah, I don't know about Hugo voters specifically, but I've seen it landing with a very broad audience, like broad in so many circles.
Yeah, I have people like
this is not like
who
great
have read it.
literature. If it were on the Hugo shortlist, I probably wouldn't vote for it first. But I will definitely be nominating it because it made me laugh and it made me happy.
Has anybody cross-referenced like the Lodestar or the best novel works with what's been popular in TikTok in like previous years? Like, do we know?
A lot for Lodestar. A lot of it is just who Hugo voters are familiar with.
No, I know. I'm interested to see if anything from there, because that's like
this is
the
a
younger
topic that
book talk.
could be for a video essay. Just start tracking data and cross-reference each year until you can like determine trends, and then make a 3-hour video of it.
Was what I've
Don't
noticed with
tempt
the
me, Reija.
Lodestar is it's never even really aligned with what I would consider popular on BookTube or Bookstagram.
No,
it's
not at
just
all.
like which authors people who read adult SFF know about in the YA sphere. It tends to be a lot of people, authors who either also write adult or are like in social circles with authors who write adult.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think even people who like Fourth Wing will attest that it is not a well-written book. I
enjoyed Fourth Wing, but it is.
I don't think Fourth Wing will make it. And if it does, it's going to be.
I feel like the people who pay the money to nominate for the Hugos don't necessarily want the Hugos to be the list that shows them Fourth Wing at the top. They have other lists for that. That's my theory. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, part of it is just fundamentally the difference between who can afford to vote in the Hugos, right? Like, a bunch of 19-year-olds are typically not able to afford to vote in the Hugos, and so why would something that's popular with them be?
Unless they are like because there are the families that are like 3-generation Worldcon goers, where you have your well-to-do parents will pay.
That is such a niche group. Wow.
It is a niche group. It is a hugely niche group.
It's a niche group, but not quite actually as niche as you think. Like,
that's weird.
There's a lot of kids who grew up in Worldcon.
Yeah, the whole kid in tow thing is a thing.
I mean, I just want to think about how my stepdad's been reading SFF for like his entire life, and like he never knew that he could vote for the Hugos or anything, and he reads like 200 books a year, like on Kindle Unlimited and everything like that, and like he should be a part of that fandom conversation, but like he was just like a poor black kid in Gary, Indiana. He wasn't gonna do that.
So I think can I go back to what I'm
Yes, there's a question here in chat which I think you can answer, Kelsey. I think one of your books.
Interested in hearing if anyone read any eligible indie published books and what they feel should be nominated. I loved Divinity 36. This is a self-published book. It's the first in a trilogy. So all 3 books were published last year. It's also eligible in best series, and that's where I think it probably has the best chance of actually making the ballot. I would absolutely recommend this based on just the first book for anyone who likes Becky Chambers' Wayfinders series. Like, absolutely, it feels like that niche of like found family with alien species and alien cultures in a really interesting sci-fi world with a really interesting premise. This is like loosely inspired, I guess, by like K-pop idol competitions, where like the main
What?
character Fex is a teenage refugee who's working as a barista on this like sort of small out of the way moon, and
Can I interject for 1 second?
Yes.
I happen to know for a fact that Gail Carriger was binge watching Thai romance dramas when she was writing this.
Fabulous. There is very little romance in the first book. You can tell who the main couple are going to be, though.
Yeah.
And anyways, Fex gets scouted for the divinity of this alien species that kind of like meshes religion with music. So like the pop stars are gods and are worshipped as gods, and he goes through this like very rigorous training where they end up like putting people together in these pantheons, which are like the idol groups, right? And so he anyways, was just delightful with all of the characters that I thought were really well written. This is very character driven, a lot of hot beverages being made in alien kitchens. So I loved this. What else? Did I read anything else that was indie published last year? So this won't make my ballot in the novella category, but I think because I didn't quite like it enough to nominate it personally, but also I read Gate Sinister by Tansy Rayner Roberts, which is a novella. And it is a sort of like alternate history gas lamp fantasy thing with a young woman who goes to an estate to become a governess and has secret reasons for being there. I read that on a plane, and my memory of it is a little bit fuzzy, but I think those are the only indie published things I read that were published last year that are eligible.
I have one indie that I probably would have put on my ballot if I was doing a nomination ballot. Blood Over Bright Haven by Emma Wong. I really liked that one. Not as much as The Sword of Kaigen, which is the big work that she's known for in the indie sphere. For me, it was kind of what I was hoping Babel would be, but it was
Blood
also
over
had more fun
what?
fantasy. Blood Over Bright Haven.
Right.
It's like future. I don't know if it's steampunk fantasy, but it's like tech fantasy, right? Where you have technology and magic intersecting in fun ways and stuff like that. The main character.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's and you have a main character who really has to deal with her internalized prejudice while also suffering from misogyny in the world. So that can be uncomfortable to read because her brain is not a good place sometimes. I'm like, oh, you should not be thinking about your coworker like that. And it's very obvious that like the author knows that, like it's not like pro her being this way. So I really liked that one. Like I said, it wasn't quite Sword of Kaigen. Like Sword of Kaigen was the type of book where I actually, for the first time in years, put it down for a minute because I was too emotional. But it was a fun book.
I was going to say we should make like a running Goodreads list of the books that we mentioned here. That would be a good idea.
Can I recommend more novels?
Yes.
Probably
Okay. Because I only talked about my 5-star books, and then I have 2 more spots on my short list.
I was gonna say, but it's like
list, and it's going to be contentious. I know that it's a little bit controversial, but I liked Witch King better than System Collapse.
Yes.
And I'll be nominating it. I know that not everyone here liked this book.
I am. The only things that I'm nominating in Best Novel are by Martha Wells.
I don't even think I'm going to nominate System Collapse because I have other books.
I'm going to because I'm going to have a spot for it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Murderbot is kind of like, she's going to regularly recuse herself on that, but I'm going to nominate it anyway.
But I think Witch King has a chance just because Martha Wells is so widely read by Hugo voters, and even if not everyone likes it, maybe enough people will to get it on the short list, just because so many people will have read it.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot.
I'm hoping for a sequel. And then my next thing that probably has no chance whatsoever is All the Hidden Paths by Foz Meadows, which
that's
is
a good one.
This is the one thing I regret not having read by now, because I loved the first book and I nominated it last year.
See,
I finished this so quickly. You could probably read it before.
I own it on ebook. I bought it on ebook. Should that be like the one thing I try to cram?
I mean, I
maybe,
want to
I don't
read
know. It doesn't have a chance. See, I didn't even nominate, I don't think, A Strange and Stubborn Endurance last year, and I don't remember why. I think it, like...
I did not nominate A Strange and Stubborn Endurance because, like, I nominated The Taste of Golden Iron instead.
I nominated both.
But I had controversial opinions of the first book, which I expressed in one of our live.
Yes, and I'm trying to remember exactly what we talked about because we had an interesting discussion.
It's because every single character in that book has a very psychopathic attitude towards people dying in front of them all of the time.
Right.
Like you have like 5 people getting murdered in front of you in the span of 3 days, and you're like, ah.
They don't start panicking for a really long time.
Yeah. I do think if All the Hidden Paths kind of like, it's where we unpack that trauma a little more.
I do think it is, yeah.
Like, I think Strange and Stubborn Endurance, yeah, it's like a fever dream of like 4 days, what's happening.
Yeah.
With this, we unpack it a bit.
Yeah, but this is what I want to know. This is what I want to know is if all of that is unpacked a little in the second book, because
some of the specific deaths that happened in the first book aren't directly addressed. Some of them are.
But the fact that there's like PTSD in our characters is very much
definitely a lot of trauma, a lot of things, like the things that are going wrong in these characters' relationships are very, deeply rooted and believable to me. I think this is incredibly good, like, character and political driven fantasy.
It's audio narrated by some of my favorite audio narrators, but it's spicy. So if you're awkward about listening to spicy things, avoid it.
I am awkward about listening to them. I am not awkward about reading about them.
That's how I feel. It was such a struggle because I love the narrator, and I'm like, I don't want you to say these words right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's even worse because usually I listen to audiobooks at work, so I can't have that kind of thing while I'm trying to.
No, yeah.
I need to have a corporate appropriate facial expression at all times.
There's a particular new side character who has particularly spicy scenes that would not be worth fun.
Okay, yes. This is a what's the word? A commute book.
And that I almost, like, I have thoughts about that. It felt almost gratuitous to have that whole scene on page, unless there's going to be a third book where we unpack it. There better be. Because like, why did you do that to her? Because these characters are going to need to talk it out in book 3, I'm sure. I need book 3. I have more books on my TBR that I want to read before nominations close, primarily among them A Fireborn of Exile, because I really liked The Red Scholar's Wake, and that made my nominations list last year. So there's a good chance that if I read this might supplant one of my books that I think I'm nominating right now. And then I have the Jinbad of Shantyport out from the library. Yes, have you read it?
I read the first chapter, and I know enough that if I had been nominating and I had finished it, I'd probably put it on my ballot. Because he is such a voice. He's got such a voicey voice, and I'm like,
I really want to read both of these books before nominations close.
There's a cute little genie bot who just tries to tell everyone stories, and they keep bringing him into the plot. Like, tell me that doesn't sound great. I've only read one chapter. I'm truly too excited.
I am going to throw out there that I DNF'd it because after the beginning, I decided I could not deal with the sibling characters.
Which one? They're both
The
a
monkey
lot.
and the lady.
Ah.
I was thinking, should we move on to the next category because
Yes,
we have been going for hour and a half.
Yeah, we're at an hour and a half. We need to pick up the pace. And does anybody want to take a break? Or are we still good to go?
I'm good to go. Maybe let's take a break after short story.
Yes, I'm just gonna fetch water, but I am Bluetooth in, so.
All right.
I'm just ducking out of frame while muted here to blow my nose. Don't mind me.
Any last things people want to throw in on best novel?
I'm kind of hoping that we don't get Scalzi again, just because I want.
You're going to get Scalzi again. You need to accept
No,
it.
but I want variation.
Dude.
As somebody who nominated Kaiju Preservation Society and was happy to see it on the list last year, even though now we know it probably shouldn't have been there, I'm not nominating the cat book.
Starter villain.
Have you read it?
I have read it, and it went through my eyeballs and out the back of my head immediately, and it didn't even make me laugh.
Yeah, clearly, you
I'm
didn't
not
even remember the name.
surprised.
Starter villain.
I didn't hate it. It's just
I haven't read it.
That's the one that Mary Robinette Kowal's cat is on the cover of, right?
No, it's not. It's not Elsie, but I think Elsie has a cameo in it.
I love that you guys know these authors' cats. That's a special level of fandom that
Hey,
I haven't known people
Elsie has her
reach.
own Instagram account.
Elsie talks,
She talks with the buttons.
and she has a lot to say.
Yes,
I think this is very valid and very important. We should have a best cat for author part of the Hugos. I think that sounds fun.
Considering how almost every year there's a cats and authors panel in any given convention, not even just Worldcon, just conventions in general.
I am curious what's going to make this list because, like, I feel like science fiction in 2023 wasn't as strong as in other publishing years, and I'm just curious because usually Hugo voters are more sci-fi driven, and we've been talking about horror and fantasy romance. I'm just curious what is going to maybe show up, and maybe it'll be a fun list to read from. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do novella next?
Yeah, let's talk novella.
No,
because
novella.
I have a single thing for novella, and it is basically the Singing Hills novella that came out.
Mammoth at the Gates.
That was really good. I'm gonna probably nominate that along with If Found, Return to Hell by MX Liu. I really enjoyed that. It's basically like it's found family, it's Chinese folklore, it's corporate wizardry, and what does that look like? It was a really delightful novella, and I really enjoyed reading it. And I'll probably also nominate Mysteries of Thorn Manor for novella as well.
Mm-hmm. This is the novella that Kristen's talking about in the chat, Untethered Sky, which I like, but I know that that's not a popular opinion. So.
Oh, the Spy Cats are based off of Elsie. Okay, that answers that.
But Untethered Sky, I think, is like made for novella, so I'm really happy about it because novellas are hard for me to like. This is about mythical birds of prey being raised by their trainers, and these two trainers kind of are in and out of each other's lives, and it's just about how they raise their rooks and kind of going. It's very bittersweet, you know, when you raise a wild animal and your relationship to that wild animal. It really focuses on that. It almost doesn't even feel fantastical, other than it's a big flying bird. So it's a very bittersweet story, but I really enjoyed it. So.
Oh, I just saw the cover for the new Nivo that is coming out in May, and it looks really freaking cool.
I have two other things that I want to recommend for best novella. Obviously, Mammoth at the Gates is going to be on my list. I really like that one. But Rose House by Arkady Martin. I know a lot of people haven't read it because I think it was a Subterranean
Yes.
press only. I don't know if like the ebook has been available for other people, but
It
Let's
is
see.
$6.
Wait, what?
The ebook is $6 in the United States. I know because I bought it, but I didn't like the book.
Cheaper
so
than
sad.
Four's been marking their novellas, so.
Yeah, I've also got a Subterranean Press novella to recommend, and I know that people haven't read it.
Yeah, I'm going to nominate someone that I enjoyed it. It's about an artificial intelligence house that may or may not have killed somebody who managed to get into the house, and the house will only deal with one person who wants nothing to do with it. I very much enjoyed it, and I thought about rereading it already. I also am considering one that I've never heard anybody else talk about. So if anybody else has read this, please let me know. The Navigating Fox by Christopher Rowe.
I've heard of it. I've heard good things. I
It seems to have
want
been
to
one
read
of
it.
the .com novellas that really flew under the radar or something, but I picked it up because I've actually read some short fiction by Christopher Rowe in the past that I really enjoyed. So I grabbed this when I saw it at the library, and it was very unusual. But I liked it. It's all about the navigating fox in a world where animals and humans have intelligence and can speak to each other. It's kind of like Roman Empire, but alternate world. And the fox is basically enlisted to lead a group of people to hell.
Exciting.
And why and what they expect to find there or whatever, it really surprised me, I will say that.
Oh, the other novella I was going to nominate, but it not The Imposition of Necessary Obstacles, which is the second one, but
yeah, The Mimicking of Known Successes.
Thank you, the Malka Older one, who with the long name whose name I always forget. Yes, I do want to nominate The Mimicking.
I'm in the middle of reading this right now, and I think I will probably nominate it as well. But
I think it has a really good chance of getting into in the ballot, like or in the.
Yeah, I think it has a chance of making it. Let's assume Nevo makes it. I don't think it has a chance of beating Nevo, but it makes me happy because that's my favorite Malka Older series so far.
So my Subterranean Press novella that I am shouting at everyone from the rooftops about, but no one is reading because it's Subterranean Press, is The Last Dragoners of Bobazar by Indra Das. This is just a very bittersweet coming of age story. It is, oh gosh, about a kid growing up in India who doesn't really know his family's history because they keep making him forget everything that he learns about their past as, dragon riders from another universe. And it's an immigrant story. It's about not really belonging to either, your parents' culture or the place you grew up in, and what that means. And it's beautiful, and I think it also has some resonance with like genre fandom in the way that it sort of relates to the history of dragon stories. There is this storyline where the protagonist's father had written a book sort of about their family history, but presented as a dragon fantasy novel in the sort of Pern style. And then like this is supposed to be Rue's book, the way it's presented, and because Rue is of a younger generation and like understanding this story differently, this is a very different sort of book. So I think it has elements that would appeal to sort of genre fans, even though the genre elements in this book are relatively mild compared to the parts that are more contemporary coming of age. Highly recommend this. I think it's beautiful writing without being like flowery or anything. Sort of more sparse, elegant writing. I loved this.
Did you say it was part of a series or a standalone? I got confused.
Standalone.
Okay. I've actually read a short story by this author, so it's on my TBR now. So.
Total standalone. And then I'm assuming that Thornhedge will be on the novella shortlist. I liked this. It's probably not my favorite Sea Kingfisher by quite a ways, but I liked it well enough. It's a changeling Sleeping Beauty thing.
Yep.
And I'm just assuming it will make the shortlist because Ursula Vernon is so popular.
I forgot Thornhedge was novella length.
Oh yeah,
but you are correct.
It's pretty
And
I mean, Nettle and Bone flirts with it by 50 pages. So
This is significantly shorter than Nettle and Bone. This is not even.
Yeah, it's like 110 pages or something. Am I remembering?
Yeah, it's really short.
so most of my reading nowadays is via audiobook because I have to chase the 2.5-year-old, and so I don't always have it in front of me.
Not fair.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ursula Vernon on there. I just had her new Spooky drop in my Audible account.
Yeah.
Is the new Spooky also a novella?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the sequel to What Moves the Dead.
A sequel.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Did it need it?
No, but will I read it? Yes.
Yeah, and who knows how connected it really is to the
I think
first
it's
story.
just the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's a different location. It's a different spooky happening.
Is it another retelling?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, okay, who can say? Because she can pull some obscure retellings, right? Like she's most of the time doing retellings, and we just don't notice it because we don't know the source. But
I mean, we read together The House with Good Bones.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That was really good. That was the kind of
really
spooky
good.
that I really enjoy. What
Yeah,
Moves the Dead was fine for me.
Yeah, no, The House with Good Bones was really good. It was really good.
I enjoyed that. I really liked that the main character was a but her
is it like insect or archaeologist or something? It has a name.
Yeah.
I loved Samantha. Her brain was super fun. She was crocheting weird insects in her brain. I was like, "What are you doing?" But
I loved that. I love it when I start shipping certain characters before the book starts shipping certain characters, and then when the book starts shipping them, then I'm like, validation for my feelings. Excellent.
I just love every time I read a Sea Kingfisher, what animal type did I not think was cute will I think is cute by the end of this experience?
Yes,
That
but
is
also
true.
I enjoy all the new facts and rabbit holes
Mhm.
that I get to explore.
Yeah.
Anyways, what can we talk about next in novellas?
Yeah. Ron says that the What Feasts at Night is not a retelling. So interesting. My copy is on my way to me. So let's see.
I always try to read like some non-tour novellas to nominate because they tend to dominate this category so much. I've ordered
Return to Hell. If Found Return to Hell.
Do you care to you already talked about this one?
Yeah. It's the one by MX Liu.
I've ordered 2 books from a local bookstore that haven't arrived yet, that are both from Solaris Rebellion, that publisher, that they're doing novellas more than they used to, I think.
They launched a novella series, I think.
Yeah, so the 2 that I've ordered
Found
that
Return
I
to
haven't.
Hell.
Pardon?
That's who published If Found Return to Hell.
The 2 I've ordered that came out last year that I don't have yet, so I haven't read them, but I hope to read them before nominations close, are The Iron Children by Rebecca Framo and A Theory of Haunting by Sarah Monette.
Oh, Sarah Monette has a new.
The Sarah Monette
Yeah.
one is I know about like a character she's written about before in other short fiction, but I think it stands alone, and I'm hoping that's the case because I haven't read any of the other short fiction.
Also, the more interesting thing to me is that she's publishing under her own name.
I think she's only using the Catherine Addison name for the Goblin Emperor universe books.
No, but there was a situation that
There was the
she-
Jack the Ripper Angel one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
she
Yeah.
originally had to start publishing under Catherine Addison because the Doctrine of Labyrinth series was technically a flop, which I detest every single person who made her feel that way, because those books are excellent. They're just like published at a wrong time, because there's such like dark fantasy and also dark fantasy romance in a sense that like they would do very well today, but back then people just didn't understand.
She has, I think, 2 things that are novella length that were out last year. I read the other one because it was in, I think, Uncanny. I'm blanking on the title, and I didn't like it enough to nominate, but if other people might want to know that it exists, and I can't remember what it was called. Does anyone remember? It was like an alternate history witch trials thing with magic. I don't remember what it was called because I didn't like it much.
Also,
I
what
did read the whole thing, and it was a novella, I'm pretty sure.
what you're describing could be the plot of so many different things, because witches and witch trials are very popular concept within fantasy.
I know.
No, I think I've only read 3 novellas that came out that last year, and we've talked about all of the ones I've read. So
We want to
Yeah.
move on
A
to
novella that I don't remember the title of because I just didn't like it enough.
Yeah, let's
look it up and put it in the chat. Do we want to talk about novelette and short story together, or do we have enough to say about them to split them out?
I think together probably makes more sense.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah,
any.
I have nothing for this myself that I would be comfortable recommending, so I will just be
Yeah.
listening to other people's recommendations.
All right. Novelette and short story.
is this where I go on my soliloquy?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right. Well, basically, everything in New Suns Volume 2 was published in 2023 for the first time. So anything in this is eligible. But my favorites from it, the title story, Acosta's really awesome. It's a very fascinating look at AI and an satellite AI that like is learning about the history of Earth in the future and like rewriting what its own identity is. It's a very cool story. If you want a retelling, and this was on the Locust shortlist, or the long list, The Farmer's Wife and the Fairy Queen. It's a retelling of the classic fae story of like how you have to hold a different shaped person to get them back. Let's see, Darcy Little Badger has one called Juan. That was very cool in this. There's a John Chu in here. So of course I really liked it, which is Equal Forces Opposed and Exquisite Tension. And this is a story about someone trying to pick their next path in academia, which as someone who's been in academia was very, very relatable. He's trying to pick between a more applicable side versus theoretical side. And it's also a really cool futuristic world. And just like a lot of John Chu's stuff, it's like, how did you put so much world building in 20 pages? Like how? Let's see another one that I really like. Just scrolling through here. I'm not scrolling, I'm just staring. This book has so many good people. It's got a Malka Older in here. It's got a Nevo. It's got a Karen Lawachi. It's got an Alex Jennings. Supper Time by Tananari Du was also very good here. So basically, this is a very good read if you want some.
So basically what you're saying, I should buy that.
Yes, and it's a very pretty cover, and it will bring you joy.
Let me
And
just
it's
go
probably
look at
one of the
ugly
few
fish.
then that would make like the editor list.
Yeah, well, yeah, Nisi Shaw is always who I put for short story editor. I really like how she curates. I don't have as many favorites in this, but this is a horror anthology that came out last year that would also qualify, and I think all the stories were first published in this. So this is another one you can pull from for more horror-related short stories. One of my favorites is Snakes Are Born in the Dark that has a lot of body horror, but it was compelling. And apparently the only other work that author's written is a romance.
Huh.
So I'm trying to connect the dots there. about how that body horror story can translate to a romance. Darcy Little Badger also has a short story in here called The Scientist Horror Story. And of the 2 Darcy Little Badger I've read, that's the one I would nominate from them because I really liked their take on subverting what makes something horrifying.
I can order it. Yay.
Yeah. You can order this one or both.
Both. Never Whistle at Night. That has a Nick Medina story in it as well.
Yeah.
So.
2 other anthologies that came out last year that I don't own. One is Out There Screaming. Jordan Peele was partially the editor for that. Has a lot of Black authors' short works. And then Africa Risen. Africa Risen is a very heavy and long short story anthology, but it has a lot of good ones in there as well. So those are the 4 anthologies that I read last year. That should have qualifying. I don't read magazines, so I'm useless on that front.
I read magazines.
I don't think it has All the Stories Are Not Allowed, but it was my favorite short story collection that was published last year, and that was it's a Zimbabwe author. I'm trying to find the title of the book. Drinking from Graveyard Wells. I don't know which stories in there are eligible because some of them were published before the collection was put together, but that's my favorite collection that I read last year. And it's by a Zimbabwe author. And it's very
I
good.
will say that Jonathan Strahan had the Witches.
Oh, Book of Witches.
Book
I
of
still want to read
Witches.
that, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have not finished it, but so far so good. I'm about like 20-ish% in because I need to be in a certain mindset to read like short stories. So I kind of dip in and dip out. But so far,
I mean, that's why my favorite is like New Sons 2 because it's only 300 pages. And like, I know it shouldn't matter if it's 300 or 500, but at around the 300 page mark, I'm done reading short stories for a while.
Yeah,
Fair
I know. I will say though that Jonathan Strahan has never, at least the ones I've read, has never published a short story collection dud. So that's like if he publishes an anthology, that's usually a very good place for me to go like, okay, what is in here?
Carrie's recommended some things in the chat for novelette The Year Without Sunshine by Naomi Kritzer. I need to read that. I need
to read all Naomi Kritzer always.
Yes, yeah. On the Fox Roads by Nevo, which I've heard of.
Yes, Carrie D's reading New Sons too. I'm just saying that's just most of the time anthologies are solid 3.5 to 4 star things because you really don't like some and you really love some. New Sons too, if you vibe with the taste of what Nisi Shaw curates, it's like most things are 4 to 5 stars.
Yep.
Angela, do you have Shudder?
No, what's Shudder?
Shudder is like a streaming, but it's just horror stuff. And the reason I ask is because they have this fabulous documentary that's all about the history of Black horror, and it has Jordan Peele and Tanner Yvdu, and I think Nisi Shaw in it talking about it, and it's it might be available on Prime now, actually.
I might have to look into that because I realized I was such a baby for so long, but I haven't bought a Blu-ray in years. I bought Nope the other day because I just love that movie so freaking much.
Yeah.
Like my mom's never gonna watch it, so I gave her a whole rundown why it's one of the best films ever made and why it was snubbed at the Oscars and just like, a whole thing.
Yeah.
Also, for people who might not know how to get to novelettes, sometimes I don't read a lot of magazines, but a few magazines actually podcast some of their novelettes and short stories for free. So if you don't want to do it with your eyeballs and find the publications, you can always go. I use Spotify, but you can probably use any of your podcasting services.
One magazine that has really, like one semi-prozine that has really dedicated themselves a lot to like accessibility is Choreo. They do audio recordings of most of their short stories that they publish and have done from the very beginning. So
Cool.
I've got one novel. I've read a handful of short stories that were published last year. None of them stood out to me enough to nominate them, except for one that is a sequel to a book, so I'm sure that it won't make the list because I'm sure no one cares. But Tears Waiting to Be Diamonds by Sarah Reese Brennan is a sequel novelette to In Other Lands that takes place several years later. And if anyone read In Other Lands when it was nominated for the Lodestar,
It was an inaugural Lodestar.
Yeah, it was an inaugural one.
Yes.
That was OG.
desperately needs more. There is a little bit more. And it was published in 2 parts in the Sunday Morning Transport.
Gosh, that I haven't thought about Netherlands in a while.
I reading this story made me desperately want to reread it.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I have messaged the ladies, but I'm going to pop out. Someone is due to be up from his nap time very soon.
Okay. Well, it's good having you three.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
All right. I will see everybody later. Bye.
All right. Do we want to take our little break?
Yes, now's a good time for a break. 5-10 minutes. I've got a little dog who really wants my attention for some reason. And when we get back, we have best series, best graphic story, and I think we'll jump ahead to the games category as well.
We'll also do dramatic presentation.
Yeah, we'll do
I have a lot for all of those
yes
categories.
I feel like we should
I have my
things
list
up that we have things to say on. So all right, break time, everybody.
How long are we taking a break?
5 to 10 minutes.
5-10 minutes.
5.
Yep.
I have refilled my pot of tea.
I didn't have enough time to get more tea, but I wish I had.
I was lazy and I didn't leave my spot, so.
I realized after I started brewing it that the tea had a best by date of 2021. So.
It maybe it's like wine. It gets better with age.
Make sure that water was extra hot.
Yes, yes.
The temperature said 200 degrees, and I'm trying to be
Yes.
good about brewing temperatures.
My dog is completely addicted to the laser pointer again. She was detoxing for about 6 months, and unfortunately she's completely addicted again, so she won't leave me alone. She doesn't actually need anything. She just keeps jumping up on me like I'm going to get up in the middle of a live show and play with the laser pointer. So
I can't move, so I'm carefully pointing.
Pointing at the void.
he has allowed himself to be seen.
Yes, yes.
God, I need a new
Looking at us very suspiciously.
She's right here too.
Like hitting you in the face.
The pose.
She was very comfy, and I moved her. So I'm going to jail for mother.
Oh, so cute.
Hermes looks like he's ready to commit me into some facility because I keep talking to dead air by myself.
Yeah.
Been trying to find this thing Bree told me about. I think I finally found it.
Ah, the shutter?
Yeah. Well, I found Shutter, but Shutter doesn't have a search bar.
What?
Yeah.
That seems
Maybe
like
that's what you get with premium. You get the search bar. Maybe that's part of it.
What?
I couldn't type anything. I just had to like click buttons. Oh.
So, best series. Does anyone have anything for best
Yeah.
series?
Yeah.
I do have a hard stop at 4 o'clock, so I've got an hour left. So
Quick.
yes.
Yeah, I'm nominating the October Day series. I'm hoping it will finally win, both to recognize it as a good series, but also so that we can get some variation in the shortlist.
Nice. I don't know if the Hugo voters will put it in, but the Red Rising series I think qualifies, and I really liked the newest entry. So.
Hello, Ava.
Hello, we have a not a cat sighting.
I mean,
I love that only her eyes. She looks like Face Gig from Dark Crystal.
Usually I just like see an ear popping up or something. Man, she really wants my attention. Please continue.
I mean, it's the 6th book in a series, so like it's either people like Red Rising and they'll nominate it, or they don't. Like that's it.
I think something we've seen with best series is that if something really popular becomes eligible again after a while, people will jump on that opportunity to nominate it in series.
Yeah.
I will say.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just like one thing that I am salty about regarding last year is that Dandelion Dynasty did not make it to the
Listen.
list. But we shall not go there.
Listen.
I'm just saying like enough people thought it was
You're
popular, but
with
not.
friends in this instance, Ray. You're with friends.
Listen.
It's the same thing that happened with Robin Hobb back in the day. Like she had that one chance to be shortlisted for the Elderlings and didn't, and I think me and Maya are still salty about it to this day.
My two picks in this category are going to be the Singing Hill Cycle, because I think the series is actually eligible.
Does
now.
it have the word count?
Yeah, I don't know if it has the word
I
count.
don't know. It's listed.
I have it on my list with a question mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably toss it in. It is showing up on the
240,000 words.
Yeah, I don't know if it has the word count yet.
maybe.
Yeah, I it has 5 installments. I don't think I don't think it has the word count.
How many are there out right now? 4?
4 were published. So Mammoth Hills is the fourth one. Or
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and I mean,
So
at
four.
most it's 160,000 words, and that's assuming they're all chunky, which they're not. So
Yeah, yeah. So even assuming that all of them are 40,000 words long, in which is the cap of the novella category, it would not make 240,000. So I don't think it's eligible.
I got to look into that one though, because I will consider it. Also,
I will. I would
Rat
love
is
it.
eligible again.
I would love it to be in the best series, but
what was the other one you said, Rachel?
World of the White Rat.
Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
eligible again? Because there was only been one book published, right? Since it was last.
But it's longer. I think it makes it
think
eligible again.
Needs to be
It has to be 2
words
entries.
of any length. So like if there were like a bonus short story somewhere, that would count in addition to a novel.
yeah. If a series is a finalist and does not win, it is no longer eligible until at least 2 more installments consisting of at least 240,000 words total appear in subsequent years. So
Yeah, like-
I'm not sure it meets the word count again because it needs to rack up again the 240,000 words.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
I'm
October Day is
on the
eligible
other
again because there are 2 books published last year for it.
My dark horse that would never make it, but it would be what I put on ballot is the Cygnus Beta World by Karen Lord. The 3rd book finally came out this past year, but no one reads it. So
I mean, put it on and see what happens.
I'm not nominating. We know this. I don't have a membership right now, but in my fake ballot, it's what I would do.
I haven't read the 3rd book in the last Binding trilogy yet, but I've read the first 2, and it's a completed trilogy now, so that's eligible.
I think that's a very strong contender.
I
Yeah.
am probably nominating this. Also, even if I don't get around to reading A Fireborn of Exile, I'm nominating Universe of Juya.
Yeah, Zuzia, that one's eligible. I think I did not read a whole lot of series that had new entries last year either.
This I've talked about already. I've only read the first book so far, but all 3 books came out last year. So if it's got a chance in any category, it's probably series, and it won't be eligible again unless there's surprise new books.
What Hugo voters should be liking is the Rook and the Rose series, but I don't know if they've been reading it. But the 3rd
want to
one
read
now. Everyone in this chat.
That's on my TBR, but
I
want to read it. I haven't yet, but I want to.
You know who a dark horse might be that I wouldn't be shocked at? Max Gladstone's Craft Sequence.
Didn't that kind of get a reboot, or it moved to a different publisher or something?
No, it's still it's with Tor.com instead of with Tor, but it's like because there's the
like
first
the new book that came out last year is part of a sequel series or something.
Yeah, but it's like it was a sequence, like it wasn't it's like a sub series.
But it's listed on Goodreads as part of a different series.
He calls it the Craft Sequence.
Yeah,
so.
the broader worlds can be eligible for best series.
Yeah, so it would be eligible as part of a broader world, not as part of the.
That's what I'm saying. It like the broader world is the Craft Sequence.
Yeah,
on Goodreads is listed as book 1 of the Craft Wars.
Yeah.
And it's a sub-series, yeah.
Anyway, so I would not be shocked if that was in there.
I agree with Ron. A Final Architecture by Tchaikovsky is probably going to be a favorite. It would be on my consideration if I had read the latest book. But
someone in the spreadsheet put in the Imperial Ratch by Anne Leckie because Translation State is in that series. Or in that world.
But is Translation State more than 240,000?
Probably not.
It wasn't Provenance.
Was it nominated before?
No, but it has. I don't know if it's been nominated, but Provenance was in that same world as well.
Yeah.
Because you only need to have 2 works since last nominated.
I don't know if it was. Hi, buddy. I love
It's
you.
never been nominated for best series.
So if it's ever been nominated, it's fine.
Yeah.
Final Strife is not eligible because there's only 2 books out in the series. You need 3.
Yeah, it wasn't.
For the majority of the early Imperial Ratch books came out before Best Series was a category.
Yeah, because Best
Oh,
Series
Ava.
2017, and I think Provenance was. Baby, you are so annoying. I love you so much. You're so annoying. Provenance came out in 2017, so it would have been so it didn't get nominated. Yeah, and Craft Sequence got nominated, I think, for like the first 5 books.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been 2 not since then. So you're so cute, Luke. You're so annoying.
Anything more for the series, or shall we move to the best graphic story? Or
I just
comic?
really want this chat to know that they would probably all like Rook and the Rose, and they should be reading it. Like this particular.
It's literally on my reading list. I'm just waiting
on
for
my
the
TBR.
library to accommodate.
Crafty. There's a character who uses magic to make the garments that she crafts better.
Yes.
I think we should nominate Dungeon Meshi for Best Series.
Okay. Can I be unleashed now?
Yes.
Best graphic story, yes. I do have something to say in this category too.
Delicious in Dungeon, Volume 12 is eligible for Best Graphic Story.
Did you just
And
say
it's
volume
great.
12?
It's fantastic. The series goes into a really dark twist by this point.
Wait,
It's amazing.
I have a question actually. Is Delicious in Dungeon eligible in the Best Series category?
That's what I'm saying. It is. It's eligible.
Is it? But like 240,000 words though. I think graphic novels kind of like they have a
Just do it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I might try. It has 12 volumes out now, so and each of these is like 238 something pages. So there's words. But it's so good. Like, if you are not reading Delicious in Dungeon, please be reading it. The art is amazing. It
would manga artists be eligible in Professional Artist?
Yes.
No.
So do you know?
Ron.
Boo.
Boo. But nominate an artist.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think so. They should be in Well, not sure actually, but I will look into it. But anyway, this is one of my favorite ongoing manga series, and it's amazing. It takes like huge inspiration from like Dungeons and Dragons, but completely subverts a lot of the like character classes and like discusses like race in this. The world building is fantastic. It gets better on each subsequent volume. Like every time you think that and it starts out as a comedic cooking manga, and then you're suddenly in like a huge epic fantasy world building with like horror elements, and you're like, wait, what?
I just checked out volumes 5 through 7 from the library. I'm so excited.
It's like, please, like, this is fantastic. Also, the main character is completely autistic coded, like with a special interest in monsters. Like I see, Laios is so relatable as a character because he's like, he gives no shits about anything else, but when you say monsters, he's like, oh, my special interest, let me tell you all about it. It's great. Another one I have is The Invisible Man and His Soon-to-Be Wife, which is a supernatural detective agency office romance. So the main character is this guy who has a detective agency, and he is the Invisible Man, and he is in love with with the kind of coordinator / secretary assistant of the company, who is like, she doesn't have any powers, but she's blind. So they have this very interesting relationship forming up because like she doesn't really care that he's invisible because she can't really see him anyway. So they and it's also like delves into like the like difficulties that each of them has with accessibility. Like for him, like for example, like the different like struggles he has because of his invisibility, and then for her because of like her blindness is not always accommodated either. So it's actually really good, like this sort of like comedic like chapter, like each chapter is a contained story, but then there's a little bit of a nudge always towards their romance, and there's a lot of different fantasy characters in it. So it's super cute. Volumes 1 and 2 are eligible in this.
Quick interjection. I agree with Renee. I still think that manga series could be eligible for best series. I just looked at a Wispus Constitution PDF that does not mention anything. It just says in installments with a word count. So,
yeah, I don't think it reaches the 240,000 words.
Great if
like
it would.
I would hope, but it doesn't. It's not. They don't talk in that lengthy ways.
How many pages per volume?
Around 230-ish.
Yeah, I was just doing the math myself. I was like, okay, how many?
No, it's like about, okay. So if we take an average of 200 words a page, which is what the internet tells me I should do, and I multiply that by 200, and then I multiply it by 12, we are at 480,000. So even if it's only 100 words per page, we are in the clear.
Is it 100 words per page though? Like, are we
I looked up how average words for a graphic novel, so I guess I didn't do manga.
Well, manga might be fewer.
It might have less.
I don't care.
Certain pages.
Nominate it and see what happens.
Novels often have more text per page.
I vote nominate and see what happens. Let the Hugo admins.
Anyway, let the Hugo admins deal with it. So the other one, obviously, Witch Hat Atelier, also one of my favorites, volume 11 came out last year, is eligible. This is another series that deals with like friendship, found family, also has really started getting into like super dark territory in the last couple of volumes. The art is amazing. Is there anything that like is super, like basically the art looks like this throughout the thing. Like it's just this.
Kamome Hama for like professional artist.
Yeah, well, I mean, and she also draws for like Marvel and stuff like that. So it's like she's amazing. Definitely like these books have like queer themes. They're also like especially in terms of like manga, there isn't always a lot of diversity, but Kamome Shirahama definitely like includes many different types of characters. So you see like plus size witches and also like different ethnicities and stuff. So she's clearly very mindful of like including various different types of characters, not only in like the cast of characters, but also in group shots. Like every single group shot is always like has something unique, and each character gets like this super cool design, and you're like, oh, I wonder what that character, like what their deal is. So it's like excellent. And yes, a very consistent magic system that is based on art. And like each witch is an artist, so instead of a wand, you have like your wand is a pen or like a fountain pen and stuff, and you draw spells, and it's fantastic. If you have never picked up Witch Hat Atelier, totally recommend. I have one non-manga recommendation that came out, so that would be Mothkeeper by Kay O'Neill. That's came out last year.
The one thing on my list is
on my list too.
This was really good. Totally recommend. Very cute. Deals with like tradition, finding your own place in society, and like it's fantastic. And then
I would just so dearly love to see something middle grade make it onto the best graphic story Hugo list, because there's so much really good like YA and middle grade.
Did Tea Dragon Society, that series, any of it ever make it?
No,
I don't think so. But I'm hoping. because now Tea Dragon Society has gotten, like, the series has gotten much more traction. So I think more people are aware of Kay O'Neill in general. And then the final thing I have, well, I have the final thing, and then I have the black horse of my whole black horse list, because like none of these are gonna make it. I'm just like here shouting to the void that please consider that manga is also eligible in this category. But Chainsaw Man by yes, Chainsaw Man is eligible. Volumes 12 and 13 by Tatsuki Fujimoto are eligible, and that is like horror, fantasy, retro. Like it basically takes place in an alternative 1980s, where instead of Cold War you have demons, like or devils running around in the world. You still have a Cold War element there, but it's like, oh, One Piece is definitely eligible in the graphic story category, by the way. It had like I think 2 or 3 volumes published in English last year. So just pick which one you want. But,
We have another
yeah.
kitty.
Yeah, Puta was yelling at me, so I had to give him treats and go grab him.
But yeah, Chainsaw Man totally eligible. Guess what else is eligible? I'll just double check. When was this published? Ah, yes. Barbarities is technically eligible.
Really?
because it is a secondary world fantasy. There's no
I
magic,
know.
but it is a secondary world fantasy, and I root for fantasy romance in any category.
That
So-
series is like billed as smutty erotica, but it's really just political fantasy.
It's
Like, that's-
political fantasy, and the political fantasy is actually very intriguing. And it's a very slow burn between the main characters. The only smut we've seen in 3 volumes for now is between the
It's
side couple.
wild, the disparity between like the expectation you have going into reading that and then what you actually get. Like it's good, but
It is good. It is good. Like you have basically this himbo of a character, and then the judge, who is like very straight-laced, and their push and pull is excellent. So yeah, I will say that my dark horse in the dark horse pile is Barbarities. I might nominate it. Like
if you have room,
if I have room, I will nominate it.
it would be awesome if something like that showed up on the long list.
See, I will say that my problem with manga series is they get long and I don't keep up with them. So like there's no way I'm catching up on like something like Witch Hat Atelier to read, and I want something that was like new last year that I can read the first volume of and nominate it. So this is maybe going on my reading list.
Barbarities only has 3 volumes out in
I
English.
know,
currently.
that sounds excellent to me.
And it's I will say that the second volume has a very long, very spicy scene that I wish I had not read in a train.
Yes.
Look,
You
I
read
am
that on the
already
train with
nominating
people
things
around, and
with
you were
long,
like, "Oh
spicy
my god,
scenes
I'm in
now
public."
with those. So this is not a problem.
But it's very good. I'm anxiously waiting for the 4th volume.
Not to further derail, but I got a kitten.
Oh, cat appearance.
Good.
Cute.
Who is this?
This is Donna Bebe. Actually, her first name was Donkey from Shrek, but we changed it. So sorry, she was just in the room for once. So I was like, "Oh, you guys are probably
This
like to see her."
was
You never need
necessary
to-
and important.
You never need to apologize for any cat appearance. But yes, those were my recommendations.
Hello to Jocelyn. Hi.
Hi.
Haven't seen you
Jocelyn
in a
actually gave me books to read on my list because there's a Valerie Valdez that no one read last year. That was like a standalone
It's
sci-fi.
been on my to-read list. It has
It's on
been.
my-
Yes.
On my to-read list as well.
I love listening to her books on audiobook, and I just haven't been able to get it from the library. So
I love Renee's comment. One Piece fans have the chance to do the funniest thing right now. Yes, One Piece is eligible. Did you know One Piece will be eligible probably every single year?
is One Piece, the adaptation of One Piece, eligible in dramatic presentation? Okay,
Yes,
we're gonna come
One
back to
Piece
that.
is also eligible in series because it has like 80 something volumes, which probably
That's
means that it,
egregious. Let's not go that.
if you think
That-
about all of the categories that One
All of
Piece
the
could be
categories,
eligible
some
in,
version of One Piece is eligible in.
I mean,
One
One
Piece
Piece is
is
eligible in
artist.
Best Series, Best Graphic Story, and
Dramatic
also Best
presentation,
Dramatic.
every version of it, yeah.
Yeah, Best Dramatic Presentation long form if you count the live action season 1, and short form if you count the anime episodes.
And because
it
they're
could
not the
swipe
same
4
thing, they
categories.
could end up in both categories.
4 categories for One Piece. Just One Piece, One
You're
Piece,
getting your
One
wish,
Piece.
Renee.
Yeah.
Okay, I have.
figure out this One Piece Doctor Who connection, but anyways.
It's because
gosh,
Doctor
what's gonna
Who
make it
has
happen?
gotten like nominations in like a lot of categories. Like every single time there's related work, like
Uh-huh.
Doctor Who is like.
I don't want to jinx
Understood.
us, but I actually haven't seen a lot of Doctor Who stuff in a while on the
It's
short list.
It's because people didn't really like the Chris Chibnall seasons.
Mhm.
I fully expect at least one of the specials that aired in November, December to be on the short list.
Okay.
I still need to watch them, and it's a crime because I'm such a David Tennant stan, and I've failed myself.
I have never seen any Doctor Who, and I give up on the idea that I'll ever be able to keep up, so it's not going to happen.
I watched the first one and I liked it. My problem is that I am a Martha fan, and unfortunately, the Doctor Who fandom has ruined 10 and Rose for me. Like, even if I was mid on them, the fandom being the fucking worst about Martha makes me be like, no, I don't want them
I
to
stay far away from almost all fandoms. Do I like reading the Cosmere? Yes. Do I interact with that fandom? Never.
Are we talking about the dramatic presentation categories?
I have
in between.
I have one thing I want to throw in for Best Graphic Story that nobody has mentioned yet, and I'm excited because it's science fiction, not fantasy.
Okay, go ahead.
The Infinity Particle by Wendy Xu.
Oh?
It's a graphic novel, and I loved it. It's futuristic. I think it takes place on Mars. I'm trying to remember what planet it's on. And it's about a young woman who wants to work with like an AI roboticist. Like it's her dream job, but when she shows up, she starts to suspect that there's something going on, and she befriends the scientist's robot who is trying to like break free and be his own person. So
Okay, this will be interesting because she was the artist for Mooncakes, which I did not like.
I liked Mooncakes.
The art was not okay.
I think I liked Infinity Particle more.
Okay, that's.
I'm gonna put a.
The writing in Mooncakes was the thing that I did not really get on with.
Di, when you said the first one, you were talking about the specials, I assume?
Yeah.
That's what I assume too. Because you were talking about Martha's like, she's not talking about Christopher Eccleston. So
I miss nothing.
Do we want to talk about related work, or do we move on to
anybody have things for
presentations?
Yeah.
I don't really have anything for related work.
I don't have
me
anything.
neither, not this year.
Unfortunately.
But I have stuff for all the presentation categories.
Well, you have only 33 minutes.
I know. Okay, so we're gonna skip.
I'm a motor mouth. I can do it.
Okay, we're gonna skip over best related work, but if people have recommendations, please put them in the chat for other people. And I'm going to combine both of the best dramatic presentation categories into one discussion. Just let us know if your recommendation is long form or short form.
Yes.
I'm gonna say Nimona.
Yes.
Oh yes. Nimona
That's my contribution.
would have been on my list.
Honestly, my
Spider-Man
entire nomination list in long form, I don't have anything for short form. In long form, it's all animated films and Barbie because there were so many good animated films last year.
My list includes Boy and the Heron from Studio Ghibli.
Me too.
It's kind of a multiverse story about grief if you think about it. It was surprisingly good.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed it. It
also,
has that.
Also, all the reviews in like traditional publications that I had seen for The Boy and the Heron emphasized how intensely weird it is and how you won't understand anything about it. But like, if you have seen other Studio Ghibli movies, like you are prepared for the level of weird. Don't be scared off. You will be able to understand this movie just fine.
Also, if you have ever experienced any other culture than your own, you will understand the movie. If you have ever experienced other storytelling thematic things
Right.
outside of the Western lens, you will understand the movie. If you
I
have not
get
been
so
raised in a pot.
frustrated with reviews of anime films in traditional American publications for so many reasons.
Yes.
But like all the reviews I saw, even when they said it was excellent, critics' pick was like, this movie is so strange, you will need to watch it twice to even start wondering what it's about. And like, no, it is not that strange. It is fine. If you are watching Stitch and Bitch and you are like a speculative fiction person, you will be fine with The Boy in the Hair and you'll understand it just fine.
Yes. Another series that I would put this in the long form as its whole season. It's 12 episodes, and it's Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. It's an anime series. You can watch it on Crunchyroll, and it's basically about this guy who wakes up one day to a zombie apocalypse, and he has been working for this really like awful company that's basically like worked him to death to the point of burnout, and he realizes, oh wow, I don't have to go to work anymore because of the zombie apocalypse, so I can start living my best life. And he makes a bucket list of all the things he's gonna do, and it's very upbeat. There's zombie apocalypse happening, like people are dying left and right and stuff, but he's like, I don't have to go to work. Screw capitalism. It's excellent.
Oh my god, I might need to watch this.
Yeah, it's actually especially if you have like looked at the recent like Mappa controversy of like Mappa, the animation studio, being like basically worked to death.
Mm-hmm.
It's like direct commentary on the industry of the anime industry. Like it's meta commentaries about the working conditions of the anime industry. Excellent series. Highly recommend. Highly recommend also the source material. It was originally, I think, a manga.
Nice.
Would
One of
recommend
mine
that as
that
well.
I was actually surprised is working for me so far, because Marvel's been doing whatever Marvel's been doing this year. So we had only just now started watching Loki because I was told I have to understand that for the new Deadpool movie that I will be seeing. Because I who knows? And I forgot that Loki was good. And it's like really good. The second season, I feel bad because like the rest of the TV shows and everything that have been coming out have been so average to like whatever. So that was one that I wasn't like, I'm actively excited to see the next episode because I'm like, what's going to happen next with this weird time thing we're doing?
Recommendation in the chat for Suzume, which is also on my list, definitely.
But Suzume was published in 2022.
But it's eligible. Didn't it have its eligibility extended, or am I forgetting?
I think Suzume is like 2022 is when it came out, and also for the English release.
It did not have its English release until 2023. I am pretty darn sure.
This is also where I find the Hugo rules.
But also, I do think it had its eligibility like specifically extended by the business meeting. So I am nominating it, and if it's wrong, it will just be.
I mean, if Suzume is eligible, I will nominate it because Suzume was great, and it's like Makoto Shinkai is one of my favorite directors anyway. Like if there starts to be like not room on my list, I will probably oust The Boy and the Heron in favor of Suzume if Suzume is eligible.
And Across the Spider-Verse was last year, wasn't it?
Yes. That's the one I was put on, yeah. Spider-Man 2.
I did see it in the airplane.
That is not the ideal way of seeing that movie.
It is not the ideal way of seeing it, but that's where I saw it.
Whew. And I know people keep saying it's a cliffhanger, and it kind of is, but it actually does kind of like end. Its issue is that its music at the end tells you it's ending 4 times, and it tricks you, and I don't like that.
I am very eagerly awaiting the next one, though.
It's gonna be forever.
Yeah,
maybe never.
Another one for long form I have is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which I really enjoyed.
It was so fun.
Especially now that I have been enjoying Baldur's Gate 3, like
they take place around the same time.
And it's.
Well, and like what's great about that movie is like, so like if you've played Dungeons and Dragons, it has so many stupid things like, oh, Mage Hand, which you like never use, but like look at that. But then my partner who doesn't play was still having a blast. Like it does
Yeah.
both.
I really enjoyed it. It was mwah, good. Also, Chris Pine.
Yes.
Chris
Yes.
Pine was good.
Chris Pine is the superior Chris. Like,
Yeah.
I think Chris Pine at this point is the best Chris out of all the Chris's
Chris
whoever
Pine?
did Chris.
Princess Diaries 3 with him and Anne Hathaway, it would.
Every year they tease me that it might happen, and every year it doesn't happen. Julie Andrews gets older. That's where I'm at.
I know. For short form, I also have stuff.
For a second. Suzumi did have its North American premiere in 2023, and I think there is something on the Glasgow website about it, but I'm having difficulty getting it to load.
I am pretty darn sure I actually saw a note somewhere that they officially extended
eligibility for non-US published works. Suzume is on that list, so yes, they have.
Well, there goes my nomination list. I need to rethink some things.
You got it.
Thank you. I agree.
And for short form, I have a few things. First of all, Epic the Musical had 2 sagas come out.
I knew it!
Yes.
I knew you were going to mention
the Cyclops saga came out in January, and the Ocean saga came out in December last year. And they're great! The Ocean saga is special. But here's the thing. The Cyclops saga has like Remember Me and My Goodbye, which are bangers. But then again, the Ocean saga has Ruthlessness, which has Poseidon's introduction, and that whole song is great. Poseidon is fantastic antagonist, so I will be nominating Epic the Musical for either both of them, or both of the sagas, or the Ocean saga for short form.
I am going to listen to the whole thing just for you, Reija. I've actually heard
Cersei Saga was just published in like 2 days ago, and it also.
I know Spotify's recommending it to me. I haven't listened to any of it, but I keep hearing about Epic the Musical from other places, and I can't even say that I'm a fan because I haven't listened to it. But what an awesome thing to be in this category! Like to finally get something that's not just TV.
Also,
and movies.
It's the Iliad. It's Odyssey in musical form. Like if you go into the rabbit hole of Epic the Musical, like I've been like going over this the whole year. I've been watching the animatics. I've been watching people's like reaction videos to the songs, and I've just been like my Spotify Wrapped last year, Just a Man was my #1 listened to song.
Well, as a musical fan, I feel like I've missed out, and this needs to be added to my to-listen list. So
excellent! It's fantastic. But yes, that is. And then Death's Game. The first 4 episodes are eligible. It is basically a Korean drama where a man commits dies by suicide, and Death decides to in his note that he leaves, he very disparagingly talks about Death, and Death gets offended and decides to punish him for thinking trivially about Death. Not the fact that like she doesn't get annoyed at him for killing himself. She gets annoyed that he like dared talk badly about Death, and like he's not afraid of death and stuff like that, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna make you afraid of death. So she makes him reincarnate into 12 different bodies, and says that if you can survive in any of these 12 bodies that are basically, they're gonna die imminently, if you can survive in any of these bodies, I will let you live in that body, and you get a new chance at life. And if you can't, your punishment ends and you're going to hell. And he doesn't know why he's going to hell, and there's this like a mystery unraveling also, like what was the thing that he did or caused to happen that set him on the path to go to hell. And it's really good. I like that it isn't strictly criticizing people for the act of like suicide. It's actually like criticizing society, there's a lot of criticism about like the fact that he was driven to this choice by the fact that like society, like late stage capitalism ruined things so bad that he felt like he had to do it, basically. Just like a lot of Korean dramas, this is basically a full on like late stage capitalism critique. And I love it. So the first 4 episodes are eligible in the short form category. Like each of the episodes is like 50 minutes long or so.
I have 20 minutes left, and I think we want to talk about best game. And
I will say the one thing that I'm for sure nominating for best short form is Subspace Rhapsody. It's the musical episode from Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's amazing. It is so good. Like, it does what a musical episode should. It pays homage to genres of musicals, like the whole thing about you sing when you can't talk, when talking isn't enough to express what you're feeling. Like it ends with a big musical number. It's so good. That's the only one I know for sure I'm nominating. Yeah, but I'm fine with moving on to games.
Okay. I want to be able to cover games and fan cast since that is our relevant one, but I'm not sure how much of the rest of this we're going to get to.
Let's just quickly talk fan cast and we can end with games because I don't have too much to mention with fan cast.
Do we want to end with games then?
Yeah, sure.
Are we not going to get to the artist categories at all?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Because I would want to just like wave book covers, book cover, very pretty.
Yes.
Book cover, also very pretty. And then my third nominee is Kay O'Neill.
Yes. Yeah. So, and put things in the chat too, because we're gonna.
StreamYard won't let me like log into chat from
go to
StreamYard.
YouTube and
You have to do it
there.
from the YouTube side.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say that if at all possible, I will be nominating a lot of the manga artists in the pro artist category. And if the Hugo administrators think that that's the wrong thing to do, then, well, but I will try.
Okay, so we want to do our spiel about Fancast?
Yes.
Okay.
Sticks and Bitch is eligible for Best Fan Cast. Angela's channel is also eligible for Best Fan Cast. I'm going to be nominating Marinez.
My channel is also eligible for Best Fan Cast.
Yeah. I will be nominating Marinez from My Name is Marinez for Best Fan Cast because I adore what she does both on YouTube and TikTok. And I think, yeah. And then, as always, Jay and I will explain the X-Men.
Yep. I think all of us here are individually eligible on our YouTube channels. So
I am not, and I will make a point of saying that I only published one single video because, well, technically the Stitch and Bitches that are on my channel would count towards that, but they're like separate thing. They're
for some reason I thought you did more than that.
No, just
No, I am subscribed to all of you, and I know who has been posting and who hasn't been.
I will try to be better this year. I promise. I have ideas.
What am I supposed to do during breakfast, guys, if you don't give me videos? Like, what am I supposed to do?
I can't really give you like booktube videos, but I'm contemplating sitting down and just spilling about all the fiber crafts. So if you want to hear about like fleece preparation.
I mean,
here's the thing. I'm definitely going to try and make, when the shortlist comes out, similarly to how I did for 2022, gonna do like the videos about the novelette, short story, and novella for like the ranking.
Yep.
When I read them. So that's definitely something that I'm doing. I just need like there's the friction of like when you've had a long break, then it's hard to get back into it even if you want to.
No, that's why I have to be really careful even when life is shitty and I should take a break to not, or else it won't. It goes away.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I took a planned break for some life things and I just haven't gotten back.
So what I will say is I am eligible for some of the stuff I did early in 2023, but I am recusing myself. Please don't nominate me. I've had that honor twice now, but I am retired.
I'm not going to get over that. I'm just going to hope that you're retired for like 3 years and then suddenly you'll get that bug and you'll just be back.
Well, we'll see where life takes me. So, thank you, Jill. I have been contemplating whether people would even care. So, yes. Okay, back on track. Are we done with Fancast? I see there's some other stuff in the chat. Carrie is recommending Breaking the Last Slipper, which I have heard of before.
Nice.
So.
Before Baldur's Gate takes over this chat, I wanted to talk about a board game.
Yes.
Just because.
I also have a board game recommendation, so
All right.
before Baldur's Gate takes over.
We're gonna end on best game/interactive story. Yes. And there are other categories we're not going to have time for, but if anybody feels strongly about those, please put them in the chat. So with that, thus begins the Baldur's Gate discussion.
Well, board games first. So
Board games first.
And then,
but then we will finish with a high note of Baldur's Gate.
Take at least 10 minutes. I don't know.
Yes, it will. I will. Go.
Okay, Age of Innovation. If you are a hardcore Euro gamer, you have heard of a game called Terra Mystica. It is loosely thematic, takes place in a fantasy world. You can be a dwarf or an elf or a witch or whatever. It is very fun, and they came out with a new version that is ultimately the best version of this type of crunchy game called Age of Innovation, and it's like a steampunk fantasy world now, and it's very fun, but it's eligible because it is a secondary fantasy world, but it's like any other Euro game. If you're familiar, the theme is very literally painted on. They made a sci-fi version of this game a couple years ago called Gaia Project, and it did nothing to the mechanics. So, but there, I went.
Before we go to Baldur's Gate, I would like to recommend Illiterati, which is basically Scrabble with extra steps. The idea is that you are fighting for free speech, and there's a secret society of people who want to terminate free speech from the world called the Illiterati, and you need to fight against them. And there's rules, like for example, certain vowels can be taken out of the game if a member of the illicit illiterati group attacks, and you draw their card, and it says that okay, all the vowels like A's are destroyed, so then you need to come up with words that are like not have A's and stuff like that. It's great, it's super fun, the art is pretty, and it's just a very innovative way to play Scrabble. It's fantasy Scrabble. It's steampunk Scrabble.
I would play
I
that.
want someone to play this. I can't even get anyone to play normal Scrabble with me in my life.
Well, that's because you have to play this one because normal Scrabble's boring. This one's fun.
I will bring this to Glasgow so that we can play this game.
Please.
Yes.
There's
one
like
of our
an
rest
80%
days
chance I'll go to
hanging out
Glasgow.
in an Airbnb and playing a board game.
Yes. So then, Baldur's Gate.
Well, a non-Baldur's Gate video game. Star Wars Jedi Survivor came out last year, and it was it was so good. It built on Jedi Fallen Order. Cal Kestis is baby girl. Marin is amazing, and it made me cry, which not a lot of video games make me do. So I'm definitely nominating Jedi Survivor as well as Baldur's Gate.
A question for the experts in the crowd: are releases counted?
What do you mean releases?
Releases? If it was published in like 2023, I think at least like whole games.
Yeah.
I don't think like, for example, DLC would count because
like,
you can play it without the core game.
Yeah, like when Hades, because Hades had been in early access, but it won, I think, for the special year. Didn't Hades win for the year where
it did, but that's because it was like, for example, Baldur's Gate has also been in early access, but
that's okay.
Re-releases, no. If the game has already been published once, it's like no.
What's going to be fun for Hugo people one day is board games. If they keep doing board games, and if board games are ever popular, they have 2 waves of releases. They have the Kickstarter release and the actual public release, and there's a different date for Europe versus the United States and Australia.
Here's the thing.
It's a mess.
I back this as a Kickstarter.
Yep.
And it has since been released.
In board game world, whenever people do their like top X of 2020, whatever, they're like, okay, technically this came out last year, but no one could buy it till this year. So
yeah, basically it's the same thing with this. This was basically published in 2022-ish because that's when the first Kickstarter backers started getting theirs. But like, you couldn't buy this before 2023.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
essentially. So,
whatever Hugo Minister has to deal with this in the future, it'll be their fun problem. So.
well, sucks to be them. Anyway, one thing before Baldur's Gate, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Crystal
Oh,
Kingdom,
yeah,
also
that came out.
eligible. Also will be nominating it. Not my game of the year. Now, Baldur's Gate.
I like how everybody had like one thing before Baldur's Gate.
Well, wait, did Kelsey go?
No, I'm not a gamer. I don't game.
But do you not play board games?
I don't have anyone to play board games with. All of my friends moved out of the city.
Do you live in Brooklyn? Because I have a friend who lives there who likes board games.
I do not, but I can get to Brooklyn.
Okay.
It's a ways on the train, but I can get there.
I just know Brooklyn's the size of Boston, so I'm just like, New York's big. I don't want to get
Yeah,
anywhere.
New York is scary.
The thing is, Brooklyn is like much closer to me as the crow flies than it is on the subway, but I have to take the subway because I'm not a crow.
Anyways, Baldur's Gate, you have 10 minutes exactly as predicted.
Okay, Baldur's Gate. If you enjoy D&D, and if you enjoy dating simulators, and if you enjoy dress up, it has all of those things. You can dress up all of your party members to cute clothes. You can romance them, and it has like strategic D&D battle stuff and also great plot. You can do so many things. I have started like 5 playthroughs just to romance all the different characters, except Gale. Gale is annoying. I kind of want to romance him only so I can like turn him down and watch his ego crumble.
You want a John Tucker Must Die him?
Well, here's the thing. In one of my playthroughs, he got pissy with me and left the camp, and I got offended. How dare you leave me? That's not the way this is supposed to go. You're the annoying one, not me.
I'm so impressed with the level of immersion you guys can feel in these types of games. My brain is not good
I
enough.
will say, in terms of like, I am enjoying Baldur's Gate. Like, I just spun up a new character. I am incredibly disappointed in Will that the writers have just fucked over Will, because he deserves better, and it's really fucking obvious the lack of effort they've put in for the one black character. So, Larian Studios, you're on thin fucking ice.
I think Will has actually gotten it was the same. People had the same complaint with Minthara as well, and at least in patch 5, both Will and Minthara got like significant writing updates.
It's still bare on the ground for Will, which again, if they're going to give fucking Gortash extra dialogue, like it's really telling like what their priorities are, and it's really gross.
Gortash is like I only interacted with Gortash to get his coat. So that I could make Asterion wear it.
It's nice.
Is it snazzy or something?
It's really cute. It looks very good on Asterion. Gortash, like...
I'm calling it now. I will be shocked if Baldur's Gate 1 doesn't make the shortlist and then doesn't win this category.
I will also be shocked.
I think Zelda is... the Tears of the Kingdom could potentially also.
I think it's between those two, to be honest.
And that's we're going to learn how many people own Switches and how many people don't, because that's going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah. I mean, are Hugo voters more likely to own PC or PS whatever, or like Switch?
Yeah. I don't know. That's what we're going to learn.
See. Or
yeah,
both.
I don't own any of them. That's my problem. I just have a laptop.
Well, that's the thing. You could play on Baldur's Gate on a laptop. Baldur's Gate is a little more accessible.
You would have to have a pretty significantly
powerful
laptop.
But,
do you also need some type of controller? Because I just use the trackpad on my laptop.
You would need a keyboard and mouse.
Okay, I have a mouse I can attach.
But no, if you're just talking on a normal laptop, like what Reija's talking about, you need like a huge like memory drive for your graphics card, which most laptops
don't. You like, okay, full disclosure, my desktop setup is pretty expensive and could potentially power a small space station, and even that has like sometimes some hiccups with Baldur's Gate. The graphics are pretty intense.
My laptop was meant to be something that you could theoretically game on, like.
They say that they lie. They say that to sell them.
So like I would not like do anything particularly drastic on it.
But here's the thing. I think Baldur's Gate is one of those games that is also excellent to watch others play it.
I want to watch you play it.
I want to do that. Like
Reija,
I would
start a
when I was a
streaming
kid, I
channel.
would go over to my friends' houses and watch them play computer
I mean,
games.
maybe I should just start start a new playthrough of Baldur's Gate and start streaming it on my channel,
I would watch.
and then just like be
Yes.
embarrassed about how I fail every single encounter.
And this is how we keep Rachel on YouTube. You have Rachel as a guest who helps you make decisions for the characters, just as an aside.
I mean, I started a new playthrough when Rachel was visiting for Hades, just so I could show
which I enjoy
Rachel
watching
Hades
a lot. I will say so some of the YouTube channels I follow that are like completely unrelated to this, some of them like costuming channels, they've just started doing random like watch me play Baldur's Gate live shows. Like you can just do it and people will enjoy it.
I mean, my Instagram recommendations are basically all about either Baldur's Gate or Has Been Hotel. Which, when we come to next year's Hugo nominations, just a note.
Is
Short
it
form
good?
category.
Has anyone watched it? Because
I have watched it, and my Spotify Wrapped will most likely be like all of that music, like all of that
I'm gonna
shows.
be
Like
honest,
songs.
any
I'll
I am
make
that's algorithmically
spoiled
driven,
because
really
it's
the right
giving
one.
me.
People are talking at the same
Sorry.
time and I can't understand anybody.
I was gonna say the art style for Has Been Hotel just like makes me physically recoil because it's giving me Onceler fandom flashbacks. Seeing that on my dash, like the arts, like I'm like, if I don't like the art style for animation, I won't watch it. And the art style is like the exact type of thing that like makes
Okay,
from Hellsite affectionate to Hellsite derogatory.
I will say that Has Been Hotel, like you can and also Hell of a Boss, you can clearly see that Bibsy Pop really liked Homestuck at one point in her life, because there's a lot of artistic influence of that. But I just really love that show. There's some qualms I have with it, like it could be more tightly written because it's very like quick. So I would want more space to be given to certain characters. But freak, the musical numbers are freaking bangers. Hell's Greatest, like Lucifer is the best character.
You're muted.
I'm on top of the garage, and the garage just opened, and it was a whole thing. But the Lucifer thing, is that from the TV show or is it a game? I'm confused.
Oh, it's a TV show.
That's what I thought, because I've seen it.
Not eligible for this year. Just like was talking about.
I've seen the animation.
How
I have it in my head.
My Instagram algorithm is basically all about like Has Been Hotel and Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate is winning though.
All right,
Especially,
and was trying to say something before, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that TikTok is really sure I want to see Has Been Hotel fan content, but I know nothing else about this show, and I'm really confused.
I've never heard of this before.
It's very adult.
And there is like a kind of, people cannot agree on what they feel about one episode that came out recently, because this is the only reason I know about it, because on Twitter, this one episode that has a song about like assault, like sexual assault, it's not landed well. Generally,
it's interesting because like there's the people who say that it has been very good, and the people that have been saying that no. I
don't think it was made with malicious intent, but the art is affecting people, and you're getting a lot of emotions from it.
Yeah, that's why it also like the very beginning of the episode is like.
I will say the other thing I've heard about the show that makes me really wary is that like one of the only black-coded characters, who's voiced by Keith David, he's enslaved to another character, and I'm just like,
no, but that's 90% of the characters in the show, because the reason. But I'm saying they make deals with devils.
Intentional. It makes me really wary of the writers' room that was like, we're having a character who's voiced by Keith David, who is one of like the most recognizable Black voice actors, and he's enslaved. Like, I don't, like Angela was saying, I don't know if it's malicious intent, but it makes me really wary.
Yeah, I think it's messy art. And so that just means it comes with all the caveats that like comes with that.
Yeah.
Like some things are going to be really special and some things are going to not land and like maybe should have been thought through and had more diversity in the creative room.
Yeah.
Do we want to like end on something that's actually relevant to Hugo eligibility for this year?
Yes.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, here's what I wanted to tell you guys, because this seems to happen every year for Best Series. I want you all to know that the Lotus Empire is coming out this year. So that means the Burning Kingdoms trilogy will be eligible next year. So if you have not read The Burning Throne yet, you have time to read that and The Oleander Sword.
I'm waiting for the buddy read in the Discord, Angela.
Listen, I'm just saying, we don't want to be here next year. And everyone's like, I meant to read that. You have time.
Which author is this
Also-
again?
Tasha Suri, she wrote Empire of Sand, but I don't
That's
like
it,
that
okay.
book.
Also, you still have time to enjoy
I didn't-
Scrabble.
I didn't like Empire of Sand either, so I've been wary. But
I don't like Empire of Sand, and I love The Burning Kingdom.
Okay.
They are not the same.
Okay.
Okay.
And actually, I have a friend who doesn't like The Burning Kingdom and loves Empire of Sand. So
Last call for final thoughts or any thoughts on the categories we've skipped. We skipped professional artist, semi-prozine, fanzine, fan writer, and fan artist. I don't have anything for these this year. I have no final thoughts.
I have one question. Would Knitted Kalevala technically count in related work? Since Kalevala is fantastical, and this
That
is
is
related work,
A great question.
and it came out last year.
That is
Because
a
if
great
yes,
question.
if yes,
think
I
put
will
it on the
nominate
list.
Knitted Kalevala.
you put on the list. You'll be the only person who does, but you will stand by what you
I will
believe in.
stand by my convictions and put Knitted Kalevala in the
Given that a
nomination.
translation of Beowulf was
That was best related.
best related work, I feel like Kalevala should be, you know, something related to that should be, yeah.
I miss Bro Wolf. That was
I
a good.
enjoyed
Yes,
that.
Bro Wolf was great, but
This is
also
a great idea, though. I
Yeah.
bought my own copy, by the way. I do have
Yeah.
it, and I'm planning on making more things.
it's
from it.
basically knitted like, and also there's a huge like contingent of Hugo voters who are into crafts. These are crafts inspired by Kalevala.
There's always like a knitting
make it-
crafting group at Worldcon every
Yeah.
year. So,
You make
So-
a compelling case.
yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that's my last words.
I am planning when I finish my golden cuckoo. How do you say that word? Sweater. I'm going to bring it with me to Scotland. So I will wear something from Knitted Kalevala to Worldcon.
Nice.
I mean, I still have time to finish my sweater as well. So, and there's a few months ahead. So
Yes.
know. I will endeavor.
And if you need encouragement, we will start binge watching anime on some Saturday, and you'll work on it during then.
Rachel, I will have you know that there is an anime series that you should watch called Sign of Affection, which is great. It's romance.
I
And it's cute.
literally just put a hold on the first volume of the manga.
The manga is so, at least the first couple of volumes, but the anime is like beautiful.
Interesting.
And also the anime, and like I have no qualms against the manga. The manga is doing a good job. I enjoy reading it, but the anime gets better across the actual ASL when they're signing.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
that's why
like
I've read all those.
easier to understand because you have like motion and stuff. So
Well, let me know when you're available. Is it on Crunchyroll?
yes.
Okay. All right.
It is. It indeed is.
All right.
All right. I think with that we're at time.
I think we're at time. Yes. So, and once we're done, I'll think of something that I feel very strongly about and forgot to mention. But anyway.
Yeah. I will say that we will have the not special episode of Stitch and Bitch next week on my channel. So next Sunday, what is it?
The 25th.
25th.
Yeah.
We will be on my channel doing the regular edition of Stitch and Bitch.
I have a feeling that some of the conversations begun today will be continued.
Yes,
Then
most likely. More media
yes.
discussions.
More multi-state.
I will make sure to catch up on the Delicious and Dungeon episodes by next weekend.
I need to start. Delicious.
the anime is also so good. It's done by one of my favorite studios, which is Trigger, and also next year it is eligible for Hugos.
I am excited about that actually. I've been trying to read the manga, but I have to say I'm enjoying the story and the characters more as the anime. So I will be
Also,
excited
you
about
know what else is eligible next year for the Hugos? Arcane Season 2, because that's coming out this year in November, and I'm really freaking happy about it.
That'll be fun.
that. Also Dune Part 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I have tickets for the Dune premiere.
I have
I
to buy
really
one.
want to go
In
see
Finland.
it.
In
I
Finland.
don't want to go alone.
I feel like Dune's great to go at alone, but just don't get that popcorn
Exactly.
bucket.
I literally have not seen a movie in theaters since I went to see Crazy Rich Asians by myself. And I think that was 2018. It's the only movie I've ever gone to see by myself.
I mean, I
I
just
go to
love
see
movies.
movies by myself all the time, and I pick show times at like weird times where there's no one else in the theater, and then I go.
Same.
I can't do that because I have to work.
I mean, yeah.
You load up on M&Ms from the grocery store and you smuggle them in.
This is the thing. I don't like nowadays we also have the smuggling culture. It used to wasn't the case because you could just bring your own snacks, and suddenly the movie theater started like encroaching upon my civil rights to bring my own snacks to the theater.
We never
And
had
now
those
you have
rights.
to
We make
smuggle them in.
Yeah, it's never been as long as I remember in the States, it's because movie theaters make their money off of concessions.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case here as well nowadays.
Yeah.
It used to be better for them.
Anyway, I will update you on whether I actually get the courage up to go see Dune Part 2 in theaters because I really want to see it. Anyway.
Okay, see you next
right.
week.
Yes, see you next week
Thank you
on
again,
Reija's channel. And thank you all for joining us in this epically long live show. Happy nominating and happy cramming in all that reading and watching and everything for the deadline. So there you go. All right. Bye, everyone.